marks the end of summer vacation and the start of another school year. But for the first time in 185 years, there will be no full semester at Green Mountain College in Western Vermont. The school fell victim to trends in higher education that could soon impact hundreds of other schools. Brooke Silva Braga was there as the college packed up for good.
Doing tours almost every When Robert Allen became president of Green Mountain College in 2016, he admired the picturesque campus, marveled at their carbon-neutral footprint, and then gawked at their balance sheet. How soon did you realize there might be a problem?
Very quickly. I mean, within the first couple of months. I'm a mathematician by training, a financial person. I realized that we were going to come up short.
The main problem was shrinking enrollment. By last year, just 427 students remained on campus, broke and unable to find a school to merge with. In January, Allen announced that the school's 184th graduation would be its last.
I've had a long professional career, not all of it in education. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. As you can imagine, many parents were really angry.
Kind of disappointed. A lot of people came here to build relationships and keep them going, not just to come here for a year or two.
Pretty much intact.
What's left of Green Mountain has a ghostly feel. Empty classrooms, empty dorms. Not even the pool is filled.
And it speaks to how these closures affect not just the school and the students, but the whole community.
This is the only swimming pool in town. And was it really effectively a public swimming pool?
The costs to run a college keep going up. New buildings, higher administrative costs, but sluggish middle-class wages mean fewer Americans can afford to pay.
I think this is something people have trouble understanding. Tuition is so high.
Right.
Shouldn't it be easy to keep a college in good financial health?
It would be that if anybody really paid tuition. So at Green Mountain College this past year, we didn't have one full pay student.
Really? Not one?
So in other words, our published tuition was roughly $36,500, and the average student paid just a little over $12,000.
We left Green Mountain and headed towards Boston. Finding other shuttered schools was as easy as pulling to the side of the road.
Southern Vermont College in Bennington, Vermont also closed after the spring semester. This past spring also marked the last classes for the College of St. Joseph in Rutland. Just across the border in Massachusetts, Atlantic Union College closed the year before. And last spring, Newberry College here in Brookline, Mass, graduated its last class too. In Boston, at Harvard, we met Michael Horn, who's been studying education and has a grim prediction. You think more of these closures are coming?
Absolutely. I think 25% of schools will fail in the next 2 decades.
A quarter?
A quarter, absolutely. They're going to close, they're going to merge. Some of them will declare some form of bankruptcy to reinvent themselves. It's going to be brutal across American higher education.
And Horn says the problems colleges already face finding enough paying customers will only get worse.
We know that families had fewer children after the recession in 2008, which means that in just a few years, there's just going to be fewer high school graduates and not as many students going into college. Fundamentally, these schools' business models are just breaking at the seams.
Small schools in the Midwest and Northeast are especially vulnerable, and Horn says new forms of education will bring even more pressure.
I think we're going to see basically faster and cheaper programs emerge. I also think we're going to see a lot of mobile learning programs come up where you can literally just pop on your phone, learn a few things. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of these sort of flexible, affordable, convenient programs.
But what these college alternatives would mean for students and the families helping pay their way, that's less clear.
I have a 1-year-old at home.
Yeah.
Is he young enough that society will have moved off this idea of the degree in time, that I don't have to come up with 500 grand in 17 years?
This is the big question in my household too. I've got 5-year-old twins, but I don't know. I mean, because there's huge parts of the society that have to shift with that. It's not just expectations, it's how employers hire it. And a huge reason people are going to school is for social reasons.
You're trying to sell it.
So what becomes of the classic college campus?
No, the asking price is $23 million.
President Allen says he's received interest from international high schools and a group hoping to educate veterans. Another college here seems unlikely.
This problem is not going away. The demographics are not going to change. And the fact that college is unaffordable for a lot of folks is not going to change in the near term.
For CBS This Morning Saturday, Brooke Silva Braga, Poultney, Vermont.
stark contrast to the college we did a story on earlier this year called Berea College, which offers scholarship.
Good evening, everyone. You are live with King Sigma, and today is Thursday, March 12th, 2020. Boy, 2020 has been a hell of a year in the first quarter of 2020. Man, I can't even keep up with all the madness right now. But I want to take a moment to, give a shout out to all my people in the chat that decided to join me this afternoon. This will be part 2 of the domestication of the male academic. As usual, I don't really schedule most of my live streams, so I'm not sure who will be available to join. But I know that Dr. Phoenix, when I did part 1, he wanted to join, but I was kind of rushed for time. So I thought I would do a follow-up because it's kind of been this ongoing conversation over the last 2 weeks as we see that we're getting a group of academics that are starting to turn their eyes onto our spaces and our conversation. So I think that it's important that that we start asking some of the questions to these Black academics that are coming into the spaces that have become kind of like our safe spaces to have our conversation with other brothers across the planet. But I just want to, give a shout out to Dragamista, OG Bobby Johnson, Matt Blaylock, D-Rock Dan, Evan Duncan, Dallas Cowboys, Victor Costin, Trader MBD, Big Poke Dog, and Solomon Giles and Excess Caliber, and anyone else that I might have missed as people come in. But yeah, so before I get to the topic, I just had to speak on this coronavirus because in this space, we've actually talked about the idea of a black swan event. We've actually talked about this idea before. And this is one of the reasons why I've always tried to qualify things that I say that might be considered speculative, predictive, or whatnot, because this is part of nature. This is part of human society. These events that'll happen that will just change everything overnight. So everything looks like it's going linear, and then boom, everything just goes haywire, total chaos. So as you all know at this point, the CDC and the World Health Organization have made it official that the coronavirus is now a pandemic. So for me, this is definitely a black swan event because it meets all of the criteria in that it was unpredictable. It was beyond what is normally expected of the times that we're in, and it's an extreme rarity. Now, based on what, we get a lot of mixed messages from mainstream media. It's hard to, dig through the stuff that's coming from the politicians, that's coming from the entertainment news that are competing with each other for ratings more than truth. And then you get the actual health officials. So I try to pay more attention to what the actual health officials are saying themselves versus the politicians and like CNN and Fox News. And so far, I've been able to determine that this could be the worst pandemic in 100 years. And for anyone that's aware of the Spanish flu, that was the worst pandemic in the last century. Now, the Spanish flu, it actually killed off about 1% of the world's population at that time 100 years ago. Looking at the information I saw, it said that the United States lost 675 to 750,000 Americans in the year of 1918-19. Because remember, this was just 12 months, the Spanish flu. It was a 12-month period, and they lost nearly 750,000 on the high end in the United States, and they lost 50 million worldwide. And remember, these are always conservative numbers coming from the government, so they're basically claiming that they lost about 51 million people during that 12-month period in 1918 and 1919. But I've read some reports for some people that say it was more like 100 million. So we'll just say that during the Spanish flu pandemic, they lost between the conservative number of 50 million to 100 million, the more liberal interpretation. And it was, the Spanish flu was very similar in that it had like avian flu origins. Now they're saying that it's a bat, that the bat species is responsible for this coronavirus, but it's also a cousin of the avian swine flu and SARS and all that. So they're kind of like these viruses that have like high death rates and mortality rates amongst humans that are kind of clustered in together. But it's kind of strange that like, it seems that all of these like Ebola, SARS, the Spanish flu, a lot of it be connected to like birds, man. So that's kind of something that really caught my eye because again, we have these conversations in these spaces, and that's why I'm always telling brothers, you got to look out for yourself, man. You got to be taking care of your health. You got to be making sure that you're doing the things that you need to do to stay ahead of anything that comes. My grandfather always told me, keep your debts very low, but more importantly, always try to pay your rent ahead of time and keep like a 6 to 12 month emergency fund. And I'm gonna kind of get to that if I can get someone on to have some exchange, but let's not forget, there is opportunity in chaos. Let's just not forget that. And we'll get a little bit more into that. But yes, you gotta be prepared, but don't forget, man, whenever there's chaos, there's opportunity to uplift yourself. I know it sounds very contradictory, but it's actually been proven. It's during times when everyone is lost and confused that the most clear-sighted people actually lift themselves up into the next economic bracket. It happens all the time. And I'm hoping that the brothers that are in my chat will be smart enough to do the basics that you need to do, because there is no vaccine for coronavirus. in the United States. And there won't be one in the United States probably until December, because we have more stricter laws for bringing drugs to the marketplace. So definitely, as far as the general public's concerned, you're looking at the last quarter of the year before there's a vaccine for coronavirus. And based on how they're saying that there's like a close relationship to the Spanish flu, if the Spanish flu took out 1% of the population, looking at that number, we could expect that somewhere between 70 and 80 million people are expected to die from the coronavirus. So, I mean, it is what it is. Because again, there is no public vaccine. And America has very stringent laws for bringing drugs to the market. So they got to do like human trials. It's a lot of stuff that has to happen. And you already know they're going to start with the top 1% giving it out. So the first dosages, they ain't going to you and I. So the best that you and I can do is what they did during the Spanish flu. And that's what's so interesting, listening to the WHO officials at the World Health Organization, because they were basically saying that the best thing that you can do is like self-quarantine, keep your hygiene in order, use your hand sanitizer and disinfectants or whatnot, limit yourself to as few public gatherings as you can over the next 90 days. And that was how most people actually were cured that survived the Spanish flu, because there wasn't no vaccine in the first year, just like there isn't now. So the brother Dr. Phoenix says, I wouldn't count a COVID-19 vaccine this year. See, Dr. Phoenix, I think that if there is one that comes out this year, it'll come from China or Africa or somewhere, because they don't have the restrictions that we have. And China being accused of being ground zero, they're under a lot of pressure to do something because they're being blamed by a lot of people. And now I heard a politician in Congress actually blaming China directly, like one of the Congress people was saying that China did this. So they're under a lot of pressure. Remember, they don't have the restrictions that we have in their human trials. China, looking at their history, they'll take like 1,000 poor people or 1,000 prisoners and just inject them with that shit and figure it out and allow a couple thousand people to die without even caring. Because again, they're under a lot of pressure. People are pointing the finger at them, and they also don't have the restrictions that we have under their communist government. So it's going to be very interesting to watch the next 12 months. Today, the NHL canceled their season. This is unprecedented stuff, man. The NBA canceled their season. I just got an alert an hour ago that the NCAA March Madness tournament has been canceled for the first time. And for us, anyone that's in my chat, almost guarantee you've never seen anything like this in your life. I've never seen anything like this in my life, man. You got the NBA playoffs around the corner, and you have March Madness starting in a week or so. And it's all canceled. And I bring it up because, man, you got to start counting dollars. We're talking about major money. The international flights between U.S. and Europe have been canceled now already. This is just the beginning, man. So the next 90 days is going to be crazy, because think about it. Okay, so with the NBA, they usually earn about $7 to $9 billion a year from NBA through all their advertising and everything, somewhere around, 8 billion, right? And then you got the March Madness generates for the NCAA and the colleges about $1 billion per year. And the airline industry is just under $1 trillion per year. And the Summer Olympics was this summer as well. And that only comes around every 4 years. And that was going to be in Tokyo this summer. And they're going to have to cancel that. As of this stream, they have not canceled it yet. But that cancellation is pretty much coming within the next week or so. And the Olympics, again, it only comes every 4 years. And there's like a very intense bidding process for getting the Olympics for your nation, your city, or your state. And Tokyo won it for the 2020 Olympics, and they're going to lose $5 billion because the Olympics on average generates between 4 to 6 billion. So we just say 5 billion for sure Tokyo's going to lose. And that was very interesting today to see that we had like the worst stock market crash today since 1987 recession, man. All things that we've been talking about in this space when we talk about the 9 areas of human activity and why it's important for us to be well-rounded and to make sure we're having conversations that are just not narrow, but that we're having broad conversations. So the brother Matt Blaylock said that they might even cancel the Euros. Damn. I wouldn't be surprised with the Euro, though, because they were already pretty much on the chopping block anyways after the Brexit with the UK. For those that don't know, the Brexit happened, and the UK has left the European Union. So really the only thing holding up the European Union right now is central bankers and Germany, because all the other countries have already said that they're pretty much leaving anyways. That's why this is a black swan event, because that's how you know you have a black swan event, because it's devastating to the social situation and the economic and political situation. This is an interesting moment to live through, man, because we've already lived through the Great Recession, but the Great Recession was not as big as like the Great Depression or the Civil Rights Movement era. Those are two of the bigger things that happened in the last 100 years. So you had the Spanish flu, you had the Great Depression, World War I and II, and then you had like the Civil Rights Movement that happened. Those were probably like some of the biggest things that happened just on a social political. And then obviously you had the third and fourth industrial age, right? But this moment that we're living in is deep, man. I never thought I would wake up and see that the NBA canceled this whole season. And now with the airlines, I mean, they're talking about grounding all flights for the next 90 days, possibly. And who knows what the world will look like 90 days from now. So I just say to you brothers, man, and anyone listening, hey, just be happy that you're alive today. Just be happy, man. If you're in your good health right now, you're going to eat a meal today. You got somewhere to lay your head. You got family that cares about you. You got friends that care about you. You should prioritize that at least for the next 3 months. You may have not been prioritizing it for the last 3 months, but try to prioritize that for the next 3 months, man, because some of us is going to be lost. And it's not just from the coronavirus. You got to understand the indirect impacts of that too. So there's probably going to, I mean, you never know when these predictions that they make, they're claiming that it could be 1% of the world population, but there's also people that will die from indirect impacts. There's also people that will end up starving to death from indirect impacts. So it may directly kill 1% that these organizations are claiming, but there will probably be another percentage that are lost from things that are like secondary impacts of the coronavirus. So when I saw that they canceled the NBA today, I was like, you know what, man, I'm just, let me call my parents. Let me call some of the people in my family and just go talk to the brothers today as well and follow up on this domestication of the male academic, because I'm just happy that I'm alive today. I'm in good health. As of today, I do not have the coronavirus. Looking at the Spanish flu, what stood out to me a lot was like it's killed, the impact who it killed. Like it was a very strange kind of pandemic, the Spanish flu, because it actually, the people that were the most susceptible to Spanish flu were children under the age of 5, those adults between the ages of 20 and 40, and then adults over 65. That is some strange stuff. So like those that were the safest during the Spanish flu were 6 years old to 19 years old and 41 to 64. I still, if anyone in the chat knows why that was, because that was strange to me that the 20-year-old to 40-year-old was just as susceptible as those under the age of 5 and over 65, but those between 6 and 19 and 41 and 64 were the safest. Shout out to the brother AJC in red. Respect to you as well, brother. You know how to hit me up. I'm opening it up for like 2 hours. If you want to come on, you got something to say about the domestication of the male academic, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the coronavirus. But yeah, man, for those that want to learn about Black Swan events, you should go look into this Nassim Taleb. And he talks a lot about these kind of things. That's why I always say that you plan for the future, but you live for today. And people are always saying about me that, like you're like a hyper individualist. You only worried about yourself. That's not true. I'm worried about my rational self-interest, but I know that I have to look out for myself because ain't no one else going to look out for me like I'm going to look out for myself. And this coronavirus is going to, man, it's going to have an impact, man. If those numbers reach what they're claiming, 1% of the world population. And another thing I was going to point to that relates to the domestication of the male academic was that a lot of the universities are closing down right now, man. My university closed down today, and it's closed at least until late April. And considering that at that point, they have graduation in May, they're probably going to end up closing down universities and doing everything online from here out for the rest of the semester. Think about that. We were just talking about this the other day about universities closing down. And this was before we weren't even talking about the coronavirus or anything like that. We were just talking about the fact that the creative destruction of the internet and online learning was already having an effect on universities. And as you all saw in the opening clip, you see that the professors, they know about this stuff. The economists, the futurists, they're very aware of the impact of the internet on learning now. Shout out to the brother Young Sturt. Shout out to Verbs. Salute to him. It says that Verb said that Trump exempted the UK from the travel ban. That's interesting. Well, Verbs, if you want to come up, man, and you're free, definitely hit me on the email so you can come up here and talk. And I want to make sure that I give a little advertisement for Verb's website, slandeval.com. He invited me to do an op-ed. As I've told you all before, definitely by the end of this year, I wanted to get my own blog, and I did get a URL for that. But I don't plan on, launching anything until December or next January. But because of all this conversation about these male academics and the policing of black men's spaces, I decided, I don't know, I was just taking notes. And, I've been seeing the back and forth with different brothers on here. I was on Obsidian's channel the other day. We talked about some of the politics and some about this academic stuff as well. And I was writing notes, and it just came out kind of like an explosion of opinion. And I decided to create my first blog article, but I didn't have anywhere to put it. And the brother Verbs, he invited me to put it on slandeval.com. And when he comes on, he can let me know when he's going to post it, but it'll be a 2 parts because it was kind of long, because I was really responding to like the historical aspect of it and how it connects to today. This whole policing of black men's opinions and policing of our spaces and policing, even in the digital world, of our right to assemble and have our own opinion free of other people's interjections and control. And he's doing the work over there. He has his own website. Some people have told me, hey, you should go do your first article over at Medium. But I say, you know what? No, I'd rather do my article on my own blog or on another brother's blog right now, because they're just going to police you over there. And some brothers that have bigger followings, it'll be better for them to go over to Medium. But for someone like me, I'm cool just going on one of the brothers' blog for now, because one day I'll have my own blog. And I encourage other brothers to get their own, even if it's just to put your thoughts out there in the digital universe. Because, we're so far behind at this point. We need a whole army of brothers putting out constructive critiques of different subjects for the whole world to see. So they'll know that we're not what they claim that we are. Incompetent, don't read, don't think. Only thinks below the waist. We've never been just those things. Those are caricatures of who we truly are. And so the brothers like Verbs and others, they're doing the work, man. So y'all go support that brother. Every little bit counts. But as you all saw, that professor that was in the clip, there's a lot of these economic futurists, and they're coming out and saying that they were wrong on their timeline. They had the universities, 25% of them closing like in the next 10 to 15 years or whatnot. But now they're saying it's more likely to be half. And that's why this coronavirus is so crazy, because it's a black swan event that changes everything. Now, think about this for a minute. So the major universities are all closing down now. So what they're doing, they're switching their students from going to brick and mortar lecture classes, and they're putting them all on online courses. Okay. So we're about to get the biggest experiment in online learning ever in history up to this point because of the coronavirus. And I didn't hear anyone in the news talking about that. That this is about to be the biggest experiment in online learning that's ever occurred. And it happened right when we black men, the common black man, is in this dialogue with those black men and women from academia about where do you go to learn new things unfiltered. I make the argument that you go to the internet now to learn unfiltered on your own schedule at the lowest cost. Academics that have been in the ivory tower all their career, they thought they were safe. This coronavirus has forced a change that they're never going to go back to that brick and mortar model that they had just yesterday. Now, some of you in the chat may disagree with me. You're thinking, well, if everything calms down in 30, 40 days, it'll go back to normal. No, it's not. Because what's about to happen over the rest of this next 2 or 3 months, they're going to find out that a lot of those majors weren't needed. They're going to find out that a lot of that space wasn't needed at the brick and mortar schools. And they're going to find out that they're actually misallocating money and charging these students these expensive tuitions when they actually could be doing a lot of this stuff online. So that's what's about to happen. So just think about the timing. We just talked about this 2 or 3 days ago. It's been an online dialogue for the last 2 weeks now. And now the male academics specifically that are attacking other black men in these spaces who are actually represent blue collar classes and the lower middle class classes, now they're going to find out that what we were saying was true. Because those professors are about to find out that the students are learning just as much not being in the classroom as they can online. So the brother Hard for Rich says VR headsets have been exploding. A lot of conferences are happening in VR now. Read the latest Forbes article on it. Hard for Rich, feel free to email it to me at kingsigma123@gmail.com. I like to read that one. But yeah, that's where we're at. But see, before the coronavirus, they were moving slowly. But the coronavirus now is forcing them to be innovative now. So now they got to catch up with Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley been telling these old universities that your model is dead, is way too expensive, and it's not even the most efficient. And now, by force, they're about to find it out. So this thing is about to get so interesting over the next year, man. I'm just happy to be here with you all. I'm alive and I'm in good health right now. But looking at the tuition, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, so now you got all the major universities announcing that they're going strictly online for like the next 90 days. Some universities said they're closing down all expectations of coming back to campus this semester. And I was looking at the tuition for public universities and private, and come to find out that the average cost of undergrad tuition at a public university is up to almost $21,000 a year or something like that. And private is up to as high as $47,000 on average. That's insane. And so this is why you have this student loan crisis of 1.5 trillion or whatever. But yet these students are paying this expensive amount of money, graduating with like $80,000 in debt, $200,000 in debt from undergrad, and they're going to be working jobs where they won't even be able to pay off 20% of that debt over 10 years. And that's why I was kind of like shook when I saw that the universities actually closed down, man, because now they're going to really have to justify their existence after this whole thing has gotten under control. But not to my surprise, man, the stock market crashed to its lowest that it's been in like 33 years since the 1987. And what really stood out today was immediately the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve stepped in and they created $1.5 trillion bailout for Wall Street, man. So I don't know how many of you missed that today, but you know how they're always saying that they're too broke to do anything for the Main Street working class. They didn't even hesitate to bail out Wall Street today. So we know that during the Great Recession, 2008 to 2012, they bailed out Wall Street at least $16 trillion. At least. It may have been more, but we know that it was at least $16 trillion that they gave to Wall Street that made a lot of millionaires during that time. And unfortunately, I wasn't one of them. But today, they did it again. They stepped right in, saved Wall Street, and bailed them out today. So a lot of you brothers get caught up in the Republican, Democrat, all that. I don't get caught up in that stuff, man. I look at the actual issue itself because they bailed them out under Donald Trump today, under a bipartisan Congress today, under the federal board is appointed by the president. So it's not even a political thing. It's just straight money, man. They're going to bail out the people that actually control them. So yeah, for you brothers that didn't know about it, the Federal Reserve and the politicians stepped in and they bailed out Wall Street today, 1.5 trillion, just like that, out of thin air, man. So when they're always telling you that they can't do this for you, they can't do that, they can't give you a tax break, they don't have no problem doing it for Wall Street. So it is what it is. And I remember something that Mitt Romney said when he was running in 2012 that really always stood out in my mind. They were talking to Mitt Romney. You know, he got into a lot of trouble for being too honest about his elite status and how he makes money at Bain Capital. And they had asked him something about, well, what do you think about if you had been president when the crisis had happened, would you have joined in with Obama and McCain and Bush and all of them and voted for the bailouts? And he kind of like ignored the question, but he said, you know what? You all talk about the bailout, but what you don't talk about is how many people on the other side of those bets became millionaires and billionaires. And it was never something that was talked about a lot, but he was basically speaking to what I opened with. There's opportunity in crisis. So everyone talks about the losers today. Yes, a lot of people lost a lot of money today, but guess what? A lot of people made money today. Because if the pie doesn't shrink, that money is just transferred to another party. Now, if there's a true shrinking of the pie, then money is actually lost. But that's not what happened because, again, the Fed stepped in and put a 1.5 million into the economy just like that to save Wall Street. So the brother Background Hustling says, all public schools in Maryland are closing from March 16th to March 27th. Yeah, that's just for now. You got to understand that this thing is about to take off, man, because I was reading about the Utah Jazz. They got 2 of their players that have already tested positive. And one of these dumbbell heads, he was talking about the coronavirus and he was like coughing into a microphone and smearing a microphone on television or whatever, saying that he ain't going to get coronavirus. Next day, his dumbass ends up with coronavirus and gave it to another one of his teammates. And that's how the whole cancellation of the season happened. So just look at how his karma came real quick. So the brother Christopher Daly, let me see. He said, Christopher Daly says the virus was able to spread in Sweden and Norway because they went to holiday ski trip in northern Italy. Yeah, my understanding, I heard MOT say that yesterday, that the whole nation of Italy is under quarantine right now. DMAX says, not to be mean-spirited, but certain parts of Europe have had issues with hygiene for decades, if not centuries. So the situation is virtually a perfect storm for them. Yeah, man. It's hard to say what's going to happen at this point, man. I mean, it's hard to say because too much of the media is all hype, but I'm just going by the number I heard. 1% of the world population is expected to die in the next year, but we'll see. We'll see. It's getting very interesting. Salute to you, Zero Max. Thanks for dropping in. So yeah, when we're talking about this whole domestication of the male academic, well, the live experimental test is taking place right now. I didn't know that this was going to happen. They didn't know. None of us knew, but it's here. The Black Swan event that's going to prove what I was saying about the overvaluation of university and the overvaluation that a lot of these people in academia have of themselves. They love bragging about, well, I got this amount of degrees or that degree. I know more than you do because I have this degree. And they're working backwards. I've always believed that raw intelligence can get you a degree, but a degree doesn't mean that you have raw intelligence. That's always been my belief because I know it worked for me. Shout out to the brother Grinch, the Gladiator P. Salute to you, homie. Y'all make sure y'all support Grinch. He's always over there doing the red pill war room type of topics. So y'all definitely, support that brother. And he also has a book out there as well. So he's one of these brothers that proves my point. He has a book that you can get on Amazon called The Ratchet Rouge. So here's a dude that he built himself up. And then, Obsidian's writing a book as well right now. So these are brothers that did it themselves. And I was the same type. I went to college after doing all the studying myself in the library. I really never talked about it, but, I've only mentioned it here and there, but I came from a working class family, man. And I was expected to go into a working class field at General Motors, Ford, or Case, or S.E. Johnson Wax. That's where almost all of my maternal side of my family worked at. And they wanted that for me. And I always found high school to be boring besides sports and chasing chicks. School always came easy to me. But I didn't like classrooms. See, that was what was strange about me. Like, I never liked the structured learning environment. I've always liked to learn on my own. Like, I was the type of person that if you give me a bunch of annoying homework assignments, I would rather go to the library and just pick up a book about Donald Goines' Whoreson. You know what I'm saying? I was reading like Whoreson, Kenyatta's Last Stand, stuff like that in high school. That was interesting to me. And I could read those books in like a day or two. the stuff that I was learning in class, it didn't excite me because the way that my school was structured, you had like the high performers in class with the dumbest motherfuckers. Because that's how they were saying that was diversity, or that it was only fair that the smart 3 kids in the class got to be in class with the other 20 dummies, which I always disagreed with. And I was so glad that finally people started to accept open enrollment and charter schools. Always thought it was so unfair that if you come from working class families, you were restricted to the school in your zip code, but you're in a merit-based system where you were judged strictly by your test scores. You could be going to private school on the taxpayer's dollar instead of being stuck in a public school that underperforms on the taxpayer dollar for the same amount. I was one of those people. When I sat down, I had those choices in front of me, go be a blue collar worker like everyone in my family, which I did not want to do. And it did pay well, but I've never been one of those 9 to 5 type of people. I just never have. So the military was there. The Marines recruited me really, really hard because I was really good at sports. So they came at me very hard, even gave me a scholarship, even though I didn't go to the Marines. Then I had the opportunity to go to college. So those were really the opportunities there. I didn't come from a family of a bunch of money. My people have always been common sense, hardworking people that they take care of themselves, they take care of their family. They'll help you out when they can, but ain't no trust funds in my family. So I had a choice. So I sat my butt down, went into the library one day. I had talked to a career counselor and he was like, well, you can get this scholarship if you get this score on the ACT. My teachers in school, my senior year of high school, I didn't even go to class. All I did was play sports, hang out with my friends, hang out with my girlfriend. And we had it so good, like you get a work permit. I don't know if they still do it anymore, but when I was in high school, you get a work permit. So I had a job and I was living it good. I bought my own car. And then when I wasn't doing that, I just decided one day, sit down, go to the library, take this ACT. And I did it myself. So this is even before I even thought of this idea of self-education replacing universities. It never occurred to me until I started just now having this conversation. It just kind of rekindled a thought in my mind. But I started thinking back and I realized that pretty much everything I achieved in my life, I achieved from experience or I learned it on my own through studying on my own. So if it wasn't from self-study, it was from self-experience or listening to older people around me and telling me about their experience or watching the mistakes that they made. You see what I'm saying? So that's why it's kind of interesting to be having this conversation with these academics from the ivory tower, because they're really overvaluing themselves. They really are. And they're unaware of how this internet has really equaled the playing field for people like us. So that's how I got into college, man. I just went to the library, read one of those preparation books for like a month because someone just the career counselor just told me, he was like, yeah, you need to get this score on this test. He didn't even give me no help. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like he helped me. He just told me you need to score this on this test. He didn't tell me how to do it. He didn't point me in no direction, but I just went and did it myself. And I think that I just happen to be lucky enough to be born in this age where you can be a self-starter and get it yourself. And so I scored high enough on the test to get a full scholarship to a Big Ten school. And that's kind of how I ended up there. But I didn't go to college and learn anything that I wasn't going to learn on my own anyways. I'd say that about 75% of what I learned in college, I could learn on my own. There was some things I learned, but it was the minority of things. Most of what I learned was from me just actually sitting down and reading a book or going through the experience myself. So that's where I'm at with it, man. I don't really know where this whole thing is going to go with these academics that are coming to this space, but I assume that we're just seeing the first wave right now. So that got, the last conversation I had, I talked about the unfortunate situation with Professor Roland Fryer at Harvard and how he was suspended from Harvard for 2 years and probably never will be able to come back to campus because of his reputation. Hey, shout out to you, Lando, man. Thanks for dropping in, brother. And then I also talked about Roland Sullivan Esquire, who was a former dean at Harvard, and how he got railroaded because he represented Harvey Weinstein. So, I was thinking to myself, okay, you got all these black men, right? Now, we know that black male professors only represent like 3% of university professors, which is only 50% of their number. And we compared that to Asians who are overrepresented by a factor of about 250% or something like that. They're way overrepresented, these Asian professors. So many of them come from other countries too. So Iman Perry says, you think he could have gotten Weinstein off? Obviously not. He had a dream team. Weinstein had a dream team. He paid off a lot of people, but it was a lot of pressure because, with the whole thing with Cosby and R. Kelly, they had to take him out because then it would have been so much backlash coming from people would have been like, yo, this is about black men. So they had to sacrifice one of these famous white dudes, and him being the poster boy for the whole thing to begin with, he was the perfect sacrificial lamb. So he got, I believe, 23 years. But not think that it was already pretty much set for him. He tried to pay off the feminists. He had always been trying to pay off the feminists. So it was like he was actually a male feminist. People don't know it, but Weinstein was one of the biggest supporters in the last decade of feminism. But he was doing it as kind of like a way to cover up his crimes, right? So he was paying out all this money to feminist groups or whatever, politicians or whatever. Hillary Clinton was one of his best friends, Oprah and all that. But he was doing it because he was doing these things behind the scenes. Now, I've always believed that it was mostly pay for play, but what he was found guilty of, he was found guilty of. So it is what it is. But, there was a lot of pay for play going on as well, a lot of casting couch stuff going on. So I was looking at the whole thing with these professors, and I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm looking at the black male students that are currently in college. So there's about 100. No, it was so there was 45,000 black male professors. Either it was black male or black. I believe it was black. It was like 45,000 total for the whole country, something like that. But there's about 1.5 million black male students. And so I'm looking at that scenario and I'm thinking to myself, like, so you got 45,000 black male professors. And I'm asking myself, if they're really such geniuses and so great, you saw the opening clip, why aren't they getting together as those 45,000 black professors and buying up a couple of these colleges? If they really have so much faith in their genius, and they should be protecting their own class of black professors. What do you guys make of the fact that you have that many black male professors, but they have not organized themselves in a way to protect each other on all these universities? Because now they have a lot to lose, because the average salary at a university is about $75,000 for a professor that's untenured or a non-tenured professor, and it's around $170,000 on average for tenured professors. Now, remember, that's just average. Some of these professors are multimillionaires because a lot of professors, they're able to catapult themselves to kind of like fame and become experts, and they become book writers, and they become like analysts on TV and things like that. Someone like a Cornel West type guy, that dude's a multimillionaire, man. So just keep that in mind, that a lot of these tenured professors, man, they're multimillionaires. So I got to ask, how is it that they're not protecting these black men that are being run off these universities when there's such a small, underrepresented class in such a fragile position? And then another brother came into the chat the other day and told me that Dr. Thomas Curry, who wrote Man Not, that he was ran out of Texas A&M. And at the time, I didn't know that. But that's another good example. So I don't know, man. I'm just kind of confused. There's so many unanswered questions about Black America, the position of black men. And I'm looking at these black male academics. I'm like, y'all don't seem to be answering many of the questions. And even before we get to that part of it, why aren't you guys protecting each other? We know that that's all we got is each other. No one else coming to save us. So that stood out in my mind too. I'm like, how do you guys let someone like Thomas, Dr. Curry, or Roland Sullivan Esquire, or Professor Roland Fryer, how do y'all just let them be lynched basically by the mobs on these campuses? So then I got to thinking, because in the last conversation I talked about how these academics are pissed off at us working class black men for having an opinion, which is very, very condescending and patronizing for the simple fact that we taxpayers pay for them. So I'm thinking, I'm saying, okay, let me put my emotions to the side. Are they right? Maybe most of these schools are private schools. Now I didn't assume it was, but I said, let me just put my emotions aside. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these are all private schools and they're not getting paid by it. Man, I went and looked it up. Come to find out that nearly 75% of all universities are public, man. Nearly 75%. only 16% of American universities are private. And then the other ones are some kind of like hybrid. So the remaining 10% are some kind of hybrid. But just think about that for a minute. So they're telling us taxpayers who are paying for 75% of these universities that we're not supposed to speak out, that we're not supposed to have an opinion, even though they can't really show me. Now, they do got the money. I give them that. They have way more money than we do. So they're able to buy time to do a lot more research than we can. But is it 100% proven that they have that many more resources than we do at the tip of our fingers now? What do you guys in the chat think? Do you think that there's this big, humongous gap between the working class black man and the black male academic that there was, let's say, 30 years ago? Or do you think that's been shrunk at least half? I say it's been shrunk at least half in the last 20 years. So what does everyone else think? Do you think that it's much closer, or do you think it's still as far apart as some of these academics think? Because they really running around here popping their collars, man. And running, I mean, that was such a shameful article, man. You know, it's one thing to have your opinion, but what really bothered me about that situation with the academic from Indiana was that this dude was running to white women. See, yo, y'all better turn y'all attention to these black men over here. This dude was proud, a grown black man. That bothered me more than anything. You're running to white feminists to point out the black men on YouTube and social media having their opinion. He was literally doing this, talking about how he's reached out to all these different white organizations and how he's reached out to these white women. Something is wrong, man. Something is really wrong with black people, but black men of 2020, the last 3 generations. I don't know what to say about us, man. Something is wrong with us, bro. Just think about that visually, man. You got a young black man running to white feminists to complain about what working class black men are doing online with their own time and their own money. Just really think about how disturbing that is visually. I've never heard of Asian men running to white women or other, this was women, and saying these Asian men are over here talking about how they want to return to traditional values or they don't want to be Democrats. I just never heard of anything like that before, man. That's a horrible, horrible, bad look for any black man, whether he be rich or poor, working poor, middle class, rich, famous, not famous. Just like when Snoop Dogg took on that little apologia tour after making truthful comments and how they actually, you know, castrated him in the media. It was that same kind of vibe. It just really, it was very cringeworthy, man. And the cat was talking about how he's been like stalking these spaces for nearly 2 years. He done wrote up a whole glossary about these spaces, everything. Really creepy shit. I'm not even gonna lie, the shit is creepy, bro. But that's how, so there's all these, you know, when I was on Obsidian's channel the other day, you guys can go check it out. We talked about a lot of these issues that are facing black men, black women, and then black America across the different classes. And all these questions are being asked by the white mainstream media, but they're saying that they don't get no answers from the black academics. So my question is, what is the value of a black male academic in academia that's now dominated by women and feminists and other emasculating lifestyles? What is their value anymore? If they can't answer basic questions, why black men are voting for Trump or not voting or voting third party. There were questions like that they were saying that they can't even answer. Or they were saying, why don't black women vote for Republicans? Things like this, right? So if black male academics can't answer the questions why working class black men expected to vote for Trump at a 25% rate and they hit 10% in the third party and most likely have the largest non-voting black men since the Civil Rights Act was passed, I mean, come on. What is their value anymore? And I'm not saying that they don't have any value, but I'm just saying that whatever value they had in, let's say, 1990, that thing has shrunk at least by half now. And when you got an academic operating like this dude is operating, it's a bad look. It doesn't look academic to me. It looks weak just from a man standpoint. but it's definitely weak from being a so-called PhD or whatever. So SKC said, dude has created his own website to track us. Yeah, I saw that. I saw it. It's nothing. This dude is supposed to be like a PhD or whatever, but I actually would bet on the men in this space is that they'll win in a debate. I'm gonna be honest with you. So I actually think that him coming out and coming to our space ended up being a good thing. It's brought out the best in us, actually. This has been a good week for men in this space. Like I said, I was never planning on doing any kind of blog article for at least 12 months. But because he came to this space, I had to really give my opinion on this whole trying to police and silence black men. So I'm going to bring Babatunde on here, and we continue this discussion. But, yeah. That's where we're at. So don't ever consider competition a bad thing. Competition is good, man. It brings out the best in you, as long as you could try to keep it in good faith. So he's the one that has to prove himself because he's the one that's put himself out there as being superior to us, basically. So the onus is on him, not us. We can only go up from here because he's the one that placed himself in a superior position. So any kind of small victories that we get is a bad look for him. But him running to white feminists to tell them about, to snitch on the black manosphere and the SYSBM and the free movement of black men and the conservative black men, that is the weakest thing I've ever seen, bro. If my grandfather was alive today and I was sitting down reading a newspaper and that, like, he was reading something like that, he would probably like shred the newspaper up and take me hunting just because he even saw something like that in a newspaper, man. That's the part that just threw me off. This dude was, it'd have been one thing if he just had his own site and he was disputing with us and he was countering us. That's perfectly great. It's good. But you're actually running to white women to tell them, ooh, white mommy, those black men over there is having conversation. These are the kind of dudes that have always been very dangerous to black people, and especially other black. I'm talking about dangerous, because you're going beyond just an adversarial situation where it's like we agree to disagree, we agree on this or that. You're actually literally sitting there, grown man, running to white women and say, you need to go watch them black men over there, what they doing over there, what they talking about, ma. This, man, I don't know, bro. I don't know what to say about it, but that's what bothered me about it, man. So that's why I decided to chime in on it. I sent you the link, Baba. But that's a bad look, man. You know, my grandfather, he's from the Biloxi area, Hattiesburg, Jackson. That's, you know, my family on my mom's side is from Mississippi. And they just made him differently, man. My grandfather never graduated from the 9th grade. I think he got to the 8th grade before he went into work for himself. But he was highly intelligent, had his own business. He was a warrior to the day he died. Even after he retired from working for Case, because he brought my family during the 60s and 70s up from Mississippi to Chicago and Milwaukee. And he held it down, man. And when he retired and he went back to Mississippi to his plot of land, I would go visit him during the summer. And I couldn't understand how this man is 65 years old. He won't enjoy his retirement. He got a 20-year younger wife. And he just loved working, man. He, even when in his retirement with a full pension, his own house, he still had his own little landscaping team. So Charles Merchant says, any word on Fountain Top from the B1s? Do they agree with his hit piece? I haven't been over to the B1 channels. That's really not my thing. The only place I've really been is in these spaces. I've talked to some of the SYSBM bros, and I've talked to Obsidian, and I saw something on O'Shea's channel. But I really have, I let those brothers in that space have their space, and I stay in my space, man. But I haven't heard anything that they said about it. So I would have to think that maybe they just didn't say anything. I don't know. You would definitely have to ask them. But I'm actually in a position now, man, where I'm moving full speed ahead, bro. I'm just going to talk about the things that I want to talk about in the way I want to talk about them and just keep moving like fast forward, man. Because we're reaching a new level now. This coronavirus, for as much devastation that it's going to cause, is also going to have a lot of opportunities for those that got their shit in order. And we got like a nice little grace period because, again, like I just told you, they just gave out $1.5 trillion to Wall Street to keep the money flowing, and it's going to be a lot more to come. So there's going to be some more bailouts coming as well. So for me, that's my focus right now. Just, keep that debt low, keep your expenses low right now, and really pay attention to where the opportunity is. Because again, going back to what Mitt Romney said, money is just mostly transferred. It's mostly transferred. And just really think about that. So the NBA, they're going to lose $9 billion. The Olympics is going to lose $5 billion, but somebody's going to gain $14 billion. See, you don't hear no one talking about that right now. For all the devastation that went bad, the toilet tissue makers are loving this situation right now. The hand sanitizers, the supplement sellers, they're killing it right now. They can't put enough product in the stores right now. So again, someone loses, someone gains if the pie doesn't shrink. And again, the Fed and the politicians are not going to let that pie shrink. So it's just going to be a transfer. And you got to put yourself in the right situation, thinking about, okay, well, if this money is being reallocated, where is it being reallocated to? And that's where you get in, where you fit in. And Zachary Williams says 1.5 trillion to Wall Street, but not to black folks or black aid. Man, you know what? I would have agreed with you prior to, but I can't even agree with you no more, man, because black people don't want help. And we found it out with the Joe Biden situation. I wrote one of the more viewed videos on reparations back when the conversation before it went, the bubble popped on that conversation. And I laid out a great plan for it. I've lost faith. I'm just going to be honest. I've lost faith, man. I even took that video down. I took it down from my private collection now because I'm like, you know what? This is giving away good information for people that don't even care. When I saw Joe Biden is less competent than any of the Democrats that have held the presidency in the last 20 years or whatever. He's one of the least competent. He's one of the ones that will do nothing but he won South Carolina by a shock to everyone. Everyone was shocked that he won because he had lost the first 3 states and he got blown out of Nevada. So everyone was shocked. But guess what? It was black boomers, especially black boomer women, that saved Joe Biden. And it was on that day that I took down my reparations video. And people know that, I've been pro-reparation from the very beginning. And I was actually had a little bit of hope. I said, you know what? Black people are going to do this. They're going to make sure that the Democrats give them some tangibles in exchange for their vote. Guess what? They did the exact opposite. Joe Biden is a pure corporatist and he's a pro-feminism. He was the face of the sexual harassment, the widening of sexual consent. Him, Al Franken, and Obama, they pretty much brought in this whole politically woke identitarian culture since 2008. And now he's the president. People forget all the things this dude has done and the things he said and how connected he is to corruption. So out of all people, I would have never thought it would have been him, but it was. And he was saved by black boomers and especially black boomer women. Shout out to the brother Big Poke Dog. Appreciate you. Definitely one of the biggest supporters in these spaces. I appreciate it, man. But to answer your question, Paul Blunt, I do not have Patreon at this time. I've always felt that for me, the most important thing for me to do in my first year of having these kind of live streams is that I need to just focus on, having quality content, building up a think tank for myself, and then having my own blog site like the brother Verbs does, and then doing Patreon at that point. So that's kind of where I'm at, man. I'm more just concentrating on building up a think tank to find out if the things that I talk about, other brothers want to talk about. And since I'm on about 80% through my first year, I have a better idea now, but I haven't set up a Patreon yet. In the future, I might, but we'll see how things go. But I want to get the mic to the brother Baba because he's coming from the UK and they're on a different time. And I want to let him go ahead and have his say on the conversation. Hey, what up with you, Baba?
Hey, what's going on, bro? How you been, man?
Man, I'm excellent, man. I'm actually very excellent, man. My mind is sharp. I'm in a good place. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just come back from work myself, man. So, you know what I mean? Yeah, man. Yeah, this has been crazy, man. You know what I mean? This has been nuts. You know
Can you tell the audience, when do you think that you'll print my op-ed?
Well, I can put it tomorrow. I can just basically reserve it for next week, Monday and Friday. since it's 2 parts. So it's up to you, really.
Okay. Yeah. But you do your thing on Monday though. So I don't want to intrude on your space on Monday. So why don't you do mine? Because you do your op-ed on Wednesdays usually, right?
Well, I release articles on Monday and Friday, and then basically Wednesday's open mic. So no, what will happen is that you'll just take my spot. I don't mind. I ain't got a problem with that at all.
Okay, cool. So there you go, audience. Baba said that my op-ed would be the first part on Monday and the second part on Friday. That's my first time ever doing a blog. The brother encouraged me, and I just want to make sure y'all support him over at slandeagle.com so that he can expand what he's doing over there. You know, you start off something like that, and it's narrow, and then you expand as you get a bigger audience and as you get more support. So y'all make sure that y'all support Slant Eagle. But go ahead and let the brother Verb speak on, this whole thing with the male academics, his thought on that, the coronavirus, and kind of how y'all handling that over in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, this coronavirus business here in the United Kingdom is just nuts, man. It's like shelves are just empty, like all the cleaning products, toilet. I mean, I went down to my local supermarket and it was just basically like I went to the toilet roll section and it was just completely bare, mate. You know what I mean? And it's not just my local supermarket. I've got friends who they've been taking pictures and sending me the same thing. I mean, just people panic. I mean, I don't know what it is with toilet roll, man. Everyone's just going for toilet roll for some reason. You know what I mean? But yeah, you can get food. Food is all right, but toilet roll, man, I don't get that. But yeah, me personally, I'm of the impression that the media's just hyped this thing up, man, because this mainstream media, they've already proven themselves to be liars. I mean, Trump called them fake news. I mean, what do you call it? Yeah, they've just proven themselves to be untrustworthy. So, I mean, there may be a little truth to this, and it seems to me that all this coronavirus it just seems to me it's just some form of common cold or flu. Because if they're saying, well, go home and just isolate yourself for a couple of weeks and you'll be all right. Well, that's typically what you do with the flu. I mean, you go and isolate yourself for like 1 or 2 weeks and you're fine. I mean, but I think, if we tell them it's some kind of flu, then people are not going to panic. I mean, but if we tell them it's this coronavirus, then obviously people are just going to start, okay, right, panic stations, which is exactly what a lot of people are doing, man. I mean, so I think they're trying to make it out like to be some kind of killer virus, but I don't buy that at all. I just personally think it's some kind of flu, man. That's it. And but a lot of people are falling for it. I personally been staying away from the news. I mean, because when you start reading the articles in newspapers and then you start looking at the TV all the time, I mean, you just get drawn in. You get sucked into the vortex. You know what I mean? So I've just stayed away from it. I mean, over here you've got people who are wearing masks and all that. I mean, especially a lot of the East Asian people over here, they all walking around wearing masks. I mean, there's a few other people doing it, but I've just stayed away from it, man. It's just business as usual for me. Going to work. A few people at work have allegedly got it. They've tested positive for it, but again, if it's what I suspect it is, which is just a version of the common cold, a different version of the common cold, or a different strain of flu, then there's nothing to worry about. I mean, just isolate yourself. A couple of weeks, you'll be all right. I mean, but apart from that, man, yeah, it's been cool for me. But in relation to the academic fountain, yeah, this guy here, man. I mean, it's what you were saying, because I listened to your that video you put out. Was it the first part of this title you got here? And see, the problem with Fountain is that he thinks that this academic approach to journalism and academic approach to investigating, he thinks that that's the be all and end all. I mean, but again, no, this isn't, as I've stated before, this is not the age of the academic. These black academics, or just academics in general, they've had their time. I mean, it's now time for them to stand aside. I mean, now we have the internet. I mean, the everyday man everyday black man, the common black man, as you want to call him, he can do his own research and he can bring his evidence forward. I mean, these academics aren't required as like spokespersons for the everyday brother. They're not required anymore. I mean, so we can speak for ourselves. And yeah, we're quite capable of bringing forward any and all evidence, which is another thing which he tried to do when he wrote the hit piece on me. He kept trying to say, well, you using YouTube videos, man. You keep using YouTube videos. I say, well, last time I checked, that video evidence is admissible in the court of law, and video evidence is used all the time. And as far as I know, there are no so-called academic. Again, he's trying to limit what evidence is brought to the table in the format that it's presented in. So he's trying to bring it round to his level, because he knows that there are no academic studies on the behavior, the dysfunctional behavior of black females. Not as far as I know anyway. I mean, but we have plenty of video evidence where black females are displaying their decadent and dysfunctional behavior. We got plenty of that. So that's what I'll use. I mean, now we've got statistics on black women and their overweight ratio, where it's 80% obese or some ridiculous figure like that. We've got numbers and statistics on the abortion, and we've got numbers and statistics on the disease rate, the STDs and all that. So there's certain statistics and numbers we can bring in. But when it comes to the behavioral side of things, I mean, it'll be testimony, it'll be video evidence. I mean, it'll be what do you call it? It'll be just any and all observational evidence that we can basically find, or we can, what do you call it, look at ourselves, where we can say, you know what, okay, this is still valid. Just because he says it's not valid, that's not the case. And again, he has still yet to tell me why, okay, if I basically if my aim is to demonstrate how violent black women are, and I present video after video after video after video, and not only videos, I present posts where black women are saying, okay, yeah, well, you know what I mean, like saying what they would do to certain people, and I mean, if they cross them the wrong way and all this, so on and so forth. I mean, if I present all this evidence, who is he to tell me that, nah, this evidence is not valid? Because that's what he's trying to do. At the end of the day, the reason why he's trying to do that is because the evidence is valid. He can't counter the evidence. So because he can't counter the evidence, he's trying to bring it back to, okay, well, you got to come at me from an academic angle. But no, your academic angle is dead, bruh. It's finished. That's not how we roll anymore. This is the era of citizen journalism. I mean, however the evidence comes, whatever format it comes in, if evidence is evidence, then it's evidence. I mean, so, I mean, again, he doesn't want to debate me. He's refused to go on Obsidian show. I mean, again, this like Mad Bus Drivers offered him, yeah, I mean, Mad Bus Driver basically gave him a spot, said, yeah, come up. But next time I go live, come up. We can talk. Now he keeps refusing. I mean, so at the end of the day, when the rubber meets the road, this guy's full of crap. He's full of garbage, man. I mean, so he's just clout chasing. I mean, looking to get his little 15 minutes of fame. I mean, going after SYSBM. Now, listening to an excerpt that Obsidian posted, where you were talking about, you talking back and forth about his upbringing, and I personally agree that his upbringing does have something to do with it. It is a motivating factor with regards to the direction that he's going in. I mean, I'm like you. I mean, it's like I can't dismiss that, because, like you said, he was the one who brought it into the public knowledge. So I can't dismiss that. I mean, if he hadn't brought it in and like we basically go fishing and we found that out, then to be a bit reluctant to try and use that as leverage. But since he decided to bring that in, no problem. I mean, so I believe that's a heavy part in relation to his motivations behind going after the Black Manosphere and going after SYSBM. I mean, but again, as we've talked before, and as we've discussed, this guy is a day late and a dollar short, man. What he should have done, he should have been doing this, as you said, he should have been doing this during the Obama era. I mean, 2008, 2016, that was his period, that was his time. Now he's jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, again, as we've discussed before, people are sick and tired of this political correctness, sick and tired of this, the speech restriction. I mean, sick and tired of being persecuted. I mean, not being allowed to voice their opinions. So people are striking back. So he's what we in now, 2020. So he's 4 years out, mate. I mean, but we'll see what happens. But as far as I'm concerned, he's simply going to serve SYSBM benefit in that he's going to boost and bolster SYSBM and boost its popularity. I mean, so as you stated before, just use the guy as a gauge to note what kind of talking points will be brought forward, because as we've discussed, we think that a lot of these mainstream media outlets are going to come a sniffing around when Trump gets his second term. So I mean, so we just use these. You see all these people coming out and with these hit pieces and all that. We just use them as a gauge and just note their talking points, so we can just sharpen our swords.
Exactly.
Yep. Sharpen our swords.
What I like about it. That's what I see. Some people didn't like it, but I'm like, this is good. We had never had a conversation about the role of the black male academic and how he relates to us, that are not in the ivory tower elite. So what did you make of the part where he was talking about how he was running to these white women, like the Zuckerberg sister and these women, like he was running to these white feminist women to like tell them about our conversation? Like, what did you make of that shit? Like, my mind just, I was like, I haven't even heard women doing that. As much problems that go on between black men and black women in these spaces, only the most extreme women do that. And they usually just limited to YouTube police. This cat, he was running to all kind of different white feminist-led organizations. Point. I'm like, I don't know what to make of this, man. Like I would have never thought I would see a grown black man running to white feminists to tell them about the conversations black men are having. That we just reached a new low point. And I want to make sure I disassociate myself from any black man that would present himself like that to the world. That is embarrassing. Can you imagine like an Indian man, like some East Indian man, and he has a space that they have like Slan India or something like that. and it's a place where like only East Indian men talk about their relationship with East Indian women and the same things that we talking about. And then one of the dudes that's an East Indian too running to like white feminists in Silicon Valley saying we need to point out what's going on with these East Indian. He's an East Indian. Like, who raises a man like that, bro?
Yeah. Yeah, he's fountain, man. He's just I don't know what he thinks of himself. Like, for some reason, he thinks he's gonna get some kind of credit from all these different groups that he's running to. I mean, and obviously with him just being so easily, he just being so easily swayed, and he can just run to these groups willy-nilly. I mean, obviously he's got no problem throwing his own people under the bus, man. Just like the Black Witch. The Black Witch does the same thing, you know what I mean? But he's on a different level, man. He is on a completely different level. Yeah, because I went on his Twitter page and I scrolled down and I saw one of these chicks that he sent, what do you call it? He sent these article to, check this out about the Black Manosphere, you know what I mean? And she reposted it and it got a bit of traction, but I mean, not much. But yeah, the dude's that's some creepy nonsense, man.
Well,
Go on, bro.
That stood out to me though is the fact that, like you just mentioned, that he doesn't understand that the male feminist moment literally ended with Weinstein. Do you think that a bunch of American men seeing what happened to Al Franken, Aziz Ansari, and now Weinstein, Cosby, these dudes were big supporter of women, despite what they were accused and convicted of? Cosby put a lot of money into one of those black female colleges. And they all abandoned this dude. So you telling me that with the election of Trump and all of the get woke, go broke culture the last 3 years, you telling me that American men are signing up to be male feminists? No, that moment has passed, man.
Yeah, he's jumped in too late, man. Jumped in too late. And again, it's like, see, at the end of the day, it's like we've got the power down here now. It's complete. The internet has completely changed everything. So yeah, he's trying to get some kind of clout, and he wants to get taken up by some mainstream media news publication and all that. But I'm like, but as you stated before, like they're just laying off people left, right, and center. I mean, that's just not a lucrative. That arena is not lucrative anymore. That arena just doesn't have the clout that it did back in the day. See, pre-internet, yeah, it was cool, but now, no.
Especially not the publications that aim towards like black women. A lot of those publications went bankrupt last year, man. Like Ebony, Jet, those. And then I was reading some of those black journalists were complaining because they had done articles for some of these publications. They never got paid, and they were only expected to get like $200 or something,
right?
200. But these publications were all going out of business, and these guys don't understand. It's like small publications like yours that are going to survive. Because you survive off of small donations and contributions, and that's all you can ask for, really, because the information is so spread out now that people are looking for targeted, raw, authentic information, and they know they can't get it from corporate media anymore. They know they can't.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this, again, like the mainstream media, they are proving themselves to be untrustworthy. I mean, they've proven themselves time and time again to be untrustworthy. And again, it's like what we see with the this corona. Again, I personally believe that this whole thing is blown way out of proportion. I mean, it's blown way out of proportion. And I think they just personally changed the name from common cold or flu to corona. I mean, because it's funny how a lot of people have been talking about how it's not really affecting a lot of people in Africa. The numbers are small. I'm like, yeah, because there's sun out there, innit? It's hot. I mean, people tend to come down with flu and cold and common cold during the winter months. You know what I mean? So yeah, because there's sun out there. I mean, so yeah, again, but that's the arena that Fountain wants to go into. That's the arena he wants to go into. That's the arena he believes that he's going to be successful in. But like I said, man, he's too late, man. That ship has sailed, man. It's gone. You know what I mean? As soon as Trump stepped in, and the way Trump has just been laying down framework in terms of presentation, in terms of just telling it like it is. I mean, he's been laying down some serious framework, man. So Fountain coming with his well, I mean, look at these guys over here, and that's running to all these feminists and all this and blah blah, so on and so forth. Again, like what he wants brownie points from these women. I mean, what does he expect from them? You know, I just don't get it.
But okay, let's get back to the academic portion of it, though. Now, with all the things that are going on with a black male and the social problems, the obstacles, even within his own academic class, you saw with the clip that they're under threat of losing their jobs just from the fact that so many universities are over leveraged, and the demand on their services is the low it's ever been. And it's going to continue. The demand for educational services in a brick and mortar educational setting is going to continue to shrink by the year. And with this coronavirus shutting down classes on campuses here in America, it's going to go into hyperspeed over the next year. So I'm trying to figure out, you're a black male academic. I would be talking about the fact that the underrepresentation of black men in academia. I would be talking about the witch hunt going on against people like Dr. Curry and Dean Sullivan and Professor Fryer. Where is his academic, thorough studies, 2-year research on that type of stuff?
Nah. Well, I mean, it's not sensational, is it? So, not sensational. But again, it's something you said before about the only person who's accepted, who can basically be dragged through the coals, is the black male. I mean, especially the heterosexual thinking black male.
Well,
I mean, so
a version of him. Where's the female version of him as a female doing to other females? So show me the female academic that's in the exact position as him, that's doing the exact same thing he's doing to other females. Show me.
I can't think of one, man. I mean, you're right, man. But again, I'm just, I'm scratching my head. Is he that delusional where he somehow thinks he's going to get some kind of recognition or credit, or I don't know, what does he expect from these people? I mean, you tattletaling, you know what I mean? You run into these people and you tell them, look what they're doing over here, look what they're doing over there. It's like, okay, well, what do you want? What are you expecting from white feminists? I don't understand. I don't understand it, man.
Well, he
This
thinks
guy,
he's a bestseller. Like I heard in one of his comments, like he was saying it as if he was going to write like some kind of bestseller about us in this space. And I'm like, no, one of the brothers in this space is going to write a bestseller about this space, not you. Because again, we're in a new moment. See, this whole coronavirus just made it really easy now. Because again, over the next 90 days, it's going to be lots of layoffs. Lots of layoffs are coming. Because again, the airlines are shutting down flights. That's a nearly $1 trillion a year industry. The NBA, $8 billion, and that doesn't even include all the ancillary businesses like vendors and things that are associated with them. Man, the money is not going to go to the working class men that the government uses for bailouts. It's going to go strictly to Wall Street like it did in 2008, 2012 period. So there's a lot of layoffs coming. And remember, Trump already announced that he's doing a payroll tax next week by executive order. So that's going to shrink jobs. Things are changing, and it's not going to be in favor of the radical feminists or their male feminist drones. It's going to be with the men that can survive any climate with a shrunken government. You see what I'm saying? So guys depend on the government for grants and jobs and fellowships. But what they don't understand is that with those universities closing, those grants and fellowships are about to shrink when they find out that dude, come on. These universities are doing the largest experiment ever in seeing how the online model works. They've never done it before. They're about to find out, wait, we could be doing 60% of this stuff online. And and once they see that in real time, because remember, they're not doing a simulation on a computer like, well, what if we did this? No. They were forced to do this because of the coronavirus. This is real. Right. This is emergency measures. So they're going to find out, hey, we can get rid of about a third of these professors making 100,000. You know, we can get rid of these classrooms and use it, rent this space out. I mean, these guys are in for a rude awakening over the next year or two, man. Just mark my words. So this guy, this is probably the most attention he could get, so he can enjoy it. But in my opinion, his presence and him showing up is the best thing that happened to us, because I'm hearing brothers having sharper arguments. They're having a conversation that wasn't had before. So it's been proven to be more of a positive than a negative. Yeah,
and the fact that he doesn't present himself for debate, I mean, that doesn't work in his favor either. You know what I mean, because at the end of the day, it's like he's basically come out. He said, "Oh yeah, this Babatunde Umar, he's a pseudo intellectual. Yeah, his book was poorly written and researched." I'm like, okay, right. So I expect to read a thorough critique of my book, because I'm still waiting. I mean, you notice he hasn't touched the SYSBM tenets yet. Still waiting. I mean, it's at the end of the day, if you've got an issue with SYSBM, the tenets are right there. I mean, I've got the article with the tenets. I've got a separate page with the tenets. I mean, they're right there. Well, why aren't you touching these issues? If SYSBM is so bad, what's the problem? I mean, you got the tenets right there. Why aren't you dealing with them? I mean, but no, he don't want to deal with it. Again, it's because it would throw a spanner. Throw a spanner in the works with regards to the bad image that he's trying to put out regards to SYSBM. I mean, he's trying to say, again, it's like he's an academic, but he's using this misogynoir term. I'm like, okay, well, we're not against women. We're against dysfunctional women. I mean, there's a big difference. I mean, if you can find a functional feminine, I mean, in shape, natural, I mean, child-free woman, we don't have a problem with that. I mean, it clearly states that in the tenets. Exactly. Well, this is why he won't go to the tenets, you see, because then it's going to throw a huge spanner in his propaganda campaign, his anti-SYSBM propaganda campaign. But oh, well, you know what I mean. But yeah,
what you say, Baba? To me, he lost me when I read the part where he said he was running to white feminists to tattletale on black adult men. I had a hard time finishing. I had to come back the next day because I've never even heard anything like this.
Right.
Let's see.
But see, that's how he thinks it works, though.
Hey,
He
what
think
up?
that he's going to go out there. What's going on, King Sigma?
What's going on, MLP? What's going on, bro?
Baba Tunde? Like, he doesn't realize his articles are doing the exact opposite of what he's actually thinking that's going to happen. Because he doesn't believe in black men enough to even think that we're going to have like a response. He's operating in like the late 90s kind of mindset where people don't get to talk things back when people try to slander them publicly, and trying to use academia as kind of like the springboard for him to actually be somewhere that there is no space for that. They don't need another black man to come after the actual manosphere to try to do some stuff like that. It doesn't work. All I have to do tomorrow is get in contact with my attorney, threaten to sue the school. You'll never hear from this dude again. Period. For any reason.
And shout out to that brother, Sir Charles. Our priest to the wise cancel. Salute, can't stay, but keep it up. So, hey, man, appreciate your contributions and your attentions. And if you're supporting what we're doing, we definitely gonna keep it going. I just want to get back the mic to MLT. Just want to salute that brother because he said he had to go.
Because see, what Sir Charles just did, there's no market for that guy to get that type of support. And they really don't need that type of support from him. Because there's nothing to win for him writing these articles. And it's like, actually, black academians should be pointed out for making sure things stay messed up in the black community. Actually. That's what they should be in charge of. Making sure that we look at the stats and statistics on how bad the lack of family planning and family control has really destroyed this actual concept that's called family. Now you got the people who want to be known as the quote unquote family people when they have nothing to bring. This is why you hear most people without any type of money or business acumen talk about how much they care a damn about the community. And whenever you drill down and let them talk long enough, they only care about the needs of the women in the actual community. They really don't give a shit about the outcome of the boys. And it's like, you're a man and you think this. Like, the women don't even need to do anything because the only thing they had to do was just show up and benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, look, man, the market that he's vying for, he's actually showing how much power they don't have by writing these type of articles. Because you think that dude can get online with Angry Man, Xanatos Clutch, or even Obsidian and last an entire stream without getting torn out the frame? No. And he knows he'll never be able to do that. So he wanted to do is just keep throwing rocks and hiding his hands. I'm like, dude, listen. One, you're part of academia. It's very easy to shut you down. Just sue the school. Send one cease and desist letter. You have one person at your school who's representing your school, and we would like to set up a debate at his school. Because, see, you can go to his school and set up a debate that he has to kind of show up to. And I wouldn't mind flying anybody out there to actually debate this dude in front of a live audience about his bullshit articles. Because, see, that's how you have to get to these dudes, is you have to go to where they are and call them out, rather than let them try to call other people out from the shadows and distance. Because there's no way somebody is going to take any of these talking points and go do something stupid with it. This isn't that type of movement where we're trying to motivate people to take some type of dangerous and dumb action. Only thing this is educating people about the life cycle of what's going on in Black America. And since when is that bad? I don't know, man. It just goes to show you how a lot of these people be out here caping, but they actually don't have any type of hope for Black men, period. And that they would love to be under the thumb as long as they get paid by one of these seed money provider people out here. And it just doesn't make any sense, man.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I mean, I don't know what this guy is. I don't know.
Well, I had a question for you both and to the audience, and I want the audience, if you, so my question is, why isn't this black academic male doing his dissertation on the overrepresentation of Asian American males in academia versus the underrepresentation of black men? And what I wanted to ask the panel and the audience, would you rather be reading about this guy who said he's getting a PhD in history, talking about that, which has historical context, which has present relevance, and doesn't bode well for the future? Or would you rather hear about some guy going and tattletaling to white feminists about our working class, lower middle class conversation? And then you got a business owner on the panel right now who has built his own mini empire. So if you would rather hear him talk about that, press 1. If you'd rather hear him talk about his thoughts on the black manosphere, press 2. Because I'm just wondering, I'm the only one that thinks that is so crazy that we got these real issues, real social problems that are not being addressed and are going unexamined.
Sociologists are not even covering them, dude. They're doing everything but covering the issues that are actually affecting black men, dude. They're doing everything they possibly can to not even give a damn about those issues. And it's crazy.
Yeah, but you know what he'll say, right? He'll turn around and say, but that's what was he say? That's whataboutism. That's his way out.
That's
he says,
not
well,
that wouldn't be whataboutism, because the whataboutism has to be irrelevant. It's not whataboutism because he's literally a PhD. He's a PhD candidate in history, and he's going to become a black academic if he passes the dissertation or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So that's all relevant to the topic. So you can have both conversations. So we already had the conversation about the black manosphere. The moment that he turned down all those offers from the different people to come on, now we're moving the conversation to a bigger conversation. We don't have to stay on the narrative that he wants to keep it on.
Correct.
Right.
Right. That's the assumption that he's operating under, that we have to keep following him. I'm like, dude, if there was no manosphere, he wouldn't even have a place to even write about this stuff. So actually, he needs us a hell of a lot more than we need him, and he doesn't realize that.
Right. Right.
A guy who actually wants to jump board and springboard his career, he would jump at the shot to go at Obsidian. Probably get torn out the fucking frame, but at least he did his due diligence for feminism. See, that's how you grow the platform. You go against perceived enemies. You don't hide from them.
Right.
Come on, man.
Well, you know, another thing too that these guys, like we were talking about earlier about Weinstein, and we were talking about Anziz and Sari and Al Franken and what happened to them. What I don't understand about this dude is that he don't understand that it's only natural that as more and more women take over academia, that they're going to want more and more female PhD students, more and more funds for female-oriented programs, and also female professors. So he's actually going against his own best interest long term.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like during like slavery, where people were happy to be in the house, and I'm like, okay, if they kill all these black people, who you think they're gonna come to after all these people are gone? They're gonna kick your ass out after all this shit's gone. So you might as well work on our side for some shit that's actually tangible, rather than turning around and doing stupid shit in the meantime while the shit's circling the drain. Because this stuff is not gonna stay this way forever. King Sigma, dude, there are people waking up every day. I'm telling you, this stuff gonna hit a critical mass in like 5 years. Well, people is wholesale gonna be like, fuck dealing with this shit. Who in academia is not supporting black men? Because that's never been a question that's been asked. We got all these academics, and the only thing that they're doing is protecting feminists. They're not even trying to go towards helping men at all, period.
Right.
And they never have, actually, on record.
And that's why more and more men are asking these questions that these black male academics won't answer. Like, okay, you've been in the trucking industry. It's like if you were sitting there at a table and you do like an annual thing with black trucker owners, and then 1 year, three of the guys at your table weren't there because they had somehow got railroaded out of the industry, you wouldn't sit there and ignore that issue and be over here talking about like the airplane industry. You would be telling the other black men trucking owners that we got to protect these other brothers, man, that are being unfairly ran out of the, by like corrupt laws or corrupt politicians or cartelism or something like that. This dude isn't talking about the fact that these black male professors are being denied tenure. They're being out of academia. all
the
of
most
the charges, or even if there has some kind of like evidence of some kind of impropriety, it's like the punishment don't fit the crime.
Some of them stay 10 years for like 10 years or more. I'm sorry, not 10 years. Adjunct faculty for 10 years or more, and they string them out there a long ass time working for free. It's absolute nonsense. But they know those people really ain't got nowhere else to go. So they keep making them bow their head for as long as they possibly could. And it's like, dude, forming our own power is far easier than trying to get these people to actually work with us.
Right.
It's an easier and it's a longer goal, long-term goal, but it's easier because we care about the results. But then again, you got so many people who's so willing to pitch it right back to them as soon as they get there. This is why you have to leave most black men out of this, because if you scratch them too far down, you'll see a feminist under that nice dark skin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like,
yes, I'm actually glad that Obsidian really tried to tell brothers that we need to start writing more. Because again, I hadn't wrote an op-ed since undergrad, and the brother Verbs, he allowed me to write an op-ed for the first time, and I just did it, man. I said, you know what, just do it, because if we don't protect our own interests and we don't put our arguments out there, I see now that they're gonna start sending more and more well-funded puppets that are totally under their control to develop the narrative for us. Because again, you wanna challenge yourself in different ways. So we've already gotten this whole podcasting thing down. We're getting better with the funding part of it.
Yeah, I mean, like the next step is, well, I can't say that out loud. I mean, we can talk about that behind.
Yeah. You don't gotta get the jewels though.
Yeah, but the next step is obviously legal protection, and there's ways that you can get people up off your ass real easy by doing certain things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Go through actual legitimate channels to actually challenge you, and you can actually challenge them back. Like, you can do this press thing very easy, a hell of a lot better than they can.
Yeah, that's definitely a behind the scenes thing, because I've actually had that conversation with Verbs, and there's things going on behind the scenes that cats ain't aware of, man. That brothers is not. They might think that we're just focusing on the podcasting, but we're on the same page as you with the legal thing, because we do have to protect ourselves, because a lot of this stuff, that Nick Sandman case with CNN was an eye opener, boy.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many people don't even know that happened last month?
Nope, not many.
Total defamation. He sued CNN for $250 million, got a settlement, and then now he got a lawsuit against like the Washington Post and other places.
Yeah.
This 19-year-old kid is already worth almost $300 million off of just a defamation claim, and now his lawyer just put in more lawsuits against other mainstream media that slandered and libeled him. But this is what people don't understand. See, people that don't understand climate and precedent don't get. All it takes is one case like that to switch the tactics of the corporate media. See, they got hit in their pockets hard by that Sandman thing. So they're not going to be listening to dudes like this guy that's sitting up here running around trying to tattletale on black men doing it, because before
his time is up, he don't even know he's entering a career field that no longer exists.
Right.
Yeah. History professor is, come on, man. That's a done industry at this point.
History professor. What are you going to teach? Gynocratic studies at Mago University? Like, what the fuck? Like, dude, what are you trying to get into, man?
He's probably trying to do like gender studies, like the history of black gender orientation since slavery or some shit like that. Because he's not going to be doing it. We need to hear. He's not going to do the working class black men. Like, wouldn't it be more interesting to read a dissertation about the black man's evolution from non-union jobs to fighting for union jobs, and how the last 20 years has seen right for work replace those good black jobs that have.
Yes, indeed. Like, see, nobody talks about that.
Don't you guys want to hear about how black men are the face of homelessness because of like globalization and the deindustrializing of the Midwest? Those are things that people want to hear about right now. That's what we want to hear our young scholars talk about. And like I said on Obsidian Channel yesterday, we are that group. We can't look to journalists anymore. We can't look to academia anymore. We have to take it on ourselves to put our narratives out there and just leave it at that.
Uh-huh. Yep. And this is where the power is now. I mean, again, the internet has just opened it right. It's wide open, man. I mean,
you now have as much power as right now. The only thing we don't have is advertisers. I mean, if they'll advertise on Fox News, they'll advertise anywhere.
But we got that now. I was just talking about that yesterday. We just got that with the copper thing. I was telling these brothers, copper was the best thing that happened to us because it created an R-rated section of YouTube now. And now, instead of just having everyone in one grouping and one box, now a corporation, YouTube can say to them, well, this is R-rated content over here. Guess what I found out? Some of these corporations still want to advertise on our channels because how do I know? Because they advertise on mine. Because of copper. Yeah, because what you do, you just say that this is not for children. So that automatically, boom, that clears out the kind of corporate sponsors that are 18 and under or need PG-13 kind of content. So the copper thing was actually the best thing that happened to us. And then what'll happen, YouTube is finding out like, wait, there's advertisers that will still advertise. Yeah. So now they're going to be like, okay, we're going to let them rock for at least a year and see what the revenues is. YouTube is not about to give up those revenues because, again, see, you being an investment guy, you know what I'm talking about when I say that coronavirus creates opportunities. Now,
yeah, I mean, I'm about to make a gang of money.
You're about to make a killing because now they're going to have to use semi trucks. So another thing is that guess who the biggest I'm gonna get a panel one guest to say, who do you think is the biggest beneficiary of coronavirus of all industry over the next 3 months? What would you guys say?
Transportation.
Now, what would you say, Baba? Audience, what's your guess? I'm gonna see if you guys agree with me when I say my guess.
It could be. I was gonna say pharmaceuticals or health. I mean, like
those are all good guesses. I'm gonna say that streaming services are the biggest beneficiary of coronavirus for the next 3 months because all the bread and circuses entertainment is canceled. No one's gonna be going out in big groupings at all over the next 90 days. So guess what? More people are gonna be staying inside than have ever stayed inside in probably 30 years.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So I think streaming services are gonna be the biggest beneficiaries of this coronavirus because, again, NBA is done, Olympics is done, concerts are being canceled. I'm talking about all these festivals and shit is all
being stopped. Like they just stopped filming like the not filming but delaying the production on the Winter Soldier and Falcon shit. They just delayed that shit. The Flash to be delayed as well. Yeah.
When was that?
Winter Soldier and the Falcon, like the Disney streaming shit.
Okay.
The biggest coming out. They delayed that shit. They're about to delay production of the Flash, and that ain't the only fucking show. A lot of these shows are going on like hiatus and shit because of this stuff. They're shutting down schools for like 3 and 4 weeks in several places across the United States. Yeah, man. Dude, it's gonna be double. I'm telling you, you're probably gonna have a negative jobs report in June, man. You're probably gonna have a negative freaking jobs report, and a rise in the unemployment numbers, which I think they need to actually solve the way they actually calculate that because I don't like it. I mean, because it's not true unemployment, you know.
Wow.
These people are about to be in a lot of trouble. I mean, a lot of stuff is happening right now. Like I was at the State House today in downtown Denver, and you have these greedy ass corporations who came in for like a tax cut from the state. I'm not going to tell you which companies, but they're all defense based in order to not lay off people and shit. Just stupid shit that we did. And they're like, oh, we'll keep all the people. You just got to give us a tax cut. Like that's the type of shit you got going on out here.
Yeah, so for me, I'm looking at this coronavirus thing, and I got my health is in order. I'll try to add another day of cardio to my typical workouts because keeping your body temperature up helps burn away viruses. A lot of people don't know that.
Correct.
If you're in pretty good health, and you keep a clean environment around you, you're not in too many public places, you should be pretty good. But it's going to be a lot of people another thing I've been trying to do, I've been learning a new skill this year, and because of this, it's going to allow some people are going to be smart enough to pick up a skill during the next 90 to 120 days.
Correct.
This is the time to do inventory, spring cleaning, and pick up a new skill. You know, some people were like asking me, they were saying, you know, what do you think is going to happen with the passport, bros? I was like, it's a good thing for the passport, bro, because now they're going to be grounded. They can work on their money. They can stack up even more money so that, because guess what? After this little quarantine period across the globe, there's going to be an explosion in demand for socializing, social events. It's going to be an explosion of pent up energy is what's going to happen. Yeah.
People are going to be organizing out of this fucking world after this shit's over.
Yep.
All entertainment is about to come to a fucking end. So trust me, you're going to have albums come out that probably never would even peak the fucking charts, come out and fucking explode after this shit's over. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's what I was thinking. Since they can't make new movies, they're going to bring out unreleased stuff. Brothers, you're going to see more creativity because brothers are actually going to get to invest in home studio type stuff because they're not investing in anything else. So the quality of YouTube is going to go up. See, that's why I try to look at the bright side of things because I see the YouTube thing being improved because people aren't going to be distracted by so many side issues. But there is going to be one thing, though. A bunch of you guys as exes are going to be calling y'all up girls you haven't talked to in years.
I'm already seeing it right now. Dude, down south. I'm already seeing it right now.
These hoes about to be bored as hell for the next 3 or 4 months. You about to be getting calls from women, brothers that's been on these little dating apps doing the swipe. They're going to be getting a higher response than they ever have. But you guys,
these women are going like most of these women can't get their kids taken care of. I'm telling you, the cam modeling shit is about to go out the roof. I'm telling you, you're going to have a lot of girls on there you ain't never seen before. I'm telling you.
Yep, because they're going to be so bored. Because think about it. Most of our entertainment is consumed by women or men trying to pursue simplicity or whatever. So you got to think, if all these people are going to go into like a cabin fever during the best season of the year, because remember, this is spring break season that this is all happening. So people are already coming out of cabin fever, and now they're going to be shut down for another 3 or 4 months.
There's going to be a lot of December babies, man. It's going to be a lot of fucking January babies, man. And then,
man.
I was thinking about
an enormous amount.
Plan B. Everyone's talking about hand sanitizer, but I think they're going to run out of Plan B. They're going to run out of Plan B by April 15th. Watch. They're going to run out of Plan Bs in the next 6 weeks. Watch what I tell you, man.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is the women today are too used. They're too used to having so much opportunity to do this, do that. And you know, they love posting on social media. Now that they can't do all that, these women are going to go insane over the next 4 months, bro. Insane. Yep. But if brothers are smart, they will play this to their advantage on every level. And again, this will be a great time for you to get focused on developing some kind of skill and doing your inventory. But you're going to get a lot of calls from women that you ain't heard from in a long time. Because a lot of
people inboxing dudes about 100. People don't get this shit. Once they start skipping a couple meals, trust me. Once they start skipping a couple of them Golden Corral and Waffle House Saturday and Sunday nights, I'm telling you, they're going to be coming back to the table. But you can't let Dracula back in. You can't. But knowing these dudes, they ain't going to stop, man. They're going to be right there.
Yeah, a lot of brothers not going to be able to handle that, man. They're not going to be able to handle the fact that just out of nowhere they're getting all this female attention. Because I haven't heard enough brothers speak on the fact that women are the ones that love the social. Women are naturally more social than men are.
Yeah.
Women are always usually, because remember, there's more. The introverted population is much higher amongst men than women. Introversion in women is rare, but it's much more common in men. And most men that are even an extrovert, they still are not as usually extroverted and in demand for social validation as women are. And it's going to be a lot of women losing their damn minds. And they're going to be looking for men that, you know, even thought of them.
It's going to be so many more manosphere fuck babies. I just can't wait, dude. All these chicks going to be pregnant with like another compromised man in the manosphere. I mean, you think the Sanji Robert Perkins shit. I'm talking about, man, you're going to have motherfuckers getting together who you know goddamn well don't shouldn't fucking be together. And, you know, it's just going to spill all out into the YouTube streets. And it's going to be fucking great.
Yeah, it's going to be like that. Greyhound about to do good numbers for this. Big numbers, Greyhound, because, you know, it was flowing out there, but I'm Greyhounding you out here. Shit is about to get wild. Have any of you guys seen that movie?
Man, Spirit Airlines is about to be flying hoes for free.
Oh, yeah. Online, OnlyFans, Pornhub, OnlyFans. They stocks are about to break records this over the next quarter. Guarantee you.
If Pornhub does like free fucking porn into it's a fucking
Pornhub is gonna do like free plan B with 100 watches and shit like that. Watch.
Yeah.
You're gonna be hearing because the modern woman is not built for a home body lifestyle in 2020. She's been addicted to the bread and circuses, the validation, and they're gonna because you know you get cabin fever typically during the winter, but this is gonna create like an extended cabin fever over the best season of the year. That's already the most loose season, the spring. Man, you're gonna have people going nuts for attention.
This is like shaking up a bunch of cats in a fucking pillowcase and like opening this shit up. That's what this shit's gonna be like. These motherfuckers gonna be wild. Hold on a second. Let me answer that.
Hey, what up with you, Rollo, man? You go ahead and get the mic because I'm going to close this out in about 20 minutes. But I wanted to make sure to give you a chance to chop it up before I got up out of here.
Yeah, I just listened to some of the stuff your guys was talking about, man. And King Silver, we talked about this last year when I said the sports might be done in 2020. Ah, man. I just don't like being right sometimes, man. We just talked about this over at somebody else's channel, remember? You there, King Simba?
Yeah, I'm here, bro. I was just on mute letting you talk. But yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to because I thought of you when someone was like, what do you think is going to happen with the passport bros? I was like, you guys ain't listening too much. If you listen to these passport bros talk, they tell you that they already have that kind of mentality where they'll work for like 6 to 9 months and they'll travel for like a month to 3 months. They've been telling y'all this. So for them, so what I told them, I was like, well, most likely what happened to dudes like Rollo is that they'll just sit and stack. And then when everything, when the quarantine breaks, they'll have a more opportunities than ever because again, this quarantine is it's gonna create like an environment of just energy, just building up, and there's gonna be like an explosion of socializing when the quarantine is over. So that was my response to what they asked me.
Yeah, but not only the passport thing, I was talking about the sports thing more so. The sports. Remember I said that the sports might end it after 2020, and now with the NBA closing, college closing, I said 2020 might be the last year of entertainment. Man, tomorrow just vouch for that. I said that on somebody else's platform last year.
That was good foresight. That was very good foresight, bro. Because if you think about it, entertainment was already trying to compete with podcasting and YouTube.
Correct.
See, people seem to forget the industries that you just mentioned. Okay. The brick and mortar school was already having struggles against the online schools and self-education. The TV and cable got surpassed by YouTube and podcasting this year. The only thing that's missing is what MOT was talking about. The advertising dollars haven't fully jumped to the online format yet, but digital advertising actually surpassed traditional TV and cable advertising this year. That's why, like you said, sports was already losing advertising dollars to the online thing anyway.
Yeah.
So coronavirus is the black swan event that's coming through like a tidal wave, and it's gonna wash away with the old, like the great deluge in the Bible with Moses, and it's gonna bring the new and the strong. You see what I'm saying? And the online thing is about to explode now.
That's true. I agree 100%. Yep.
Rollo, did you have anything to say about the topic of the domestication of the male academic? Are you surprised by this? Because you've always talked about kind of the futuristic thing about how people would invade these spaces or whatnot. What do you make of? So we went from like the Hotep thing, we went from the women invading the space. Now you got the academics coming in. What do you make of this sudden like academic type, male feminist type?
I'm laughing because we talked about this 3 months ago, man. Wow. The male feminist has now shown his true colors because his woman is allowing him to speak up for a change. That's my take on it. That's my take on it. I don't really have anything else to add on because I will say this: the married dudes on YouTube, most of them,
Mm-hmm.
what you're gonna find out is that a lot of them is getting sick and tired of their wives, and they're going to deal with women's here, and then you got the married woman's going to deal with dudes here. The married thing is going to be very interesting this summer and spring because they're going to be and going to the male spaces and trying to hear what we have to say more than ever before because they're going to get sick and tired of seeing each other every day in the house. So, man, it's going to be crazy.
Now, being a brother from more of a patriarchal culture like Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
what do you make of a grown black man running to white women to snitch on black men in his space and writing articles about the black manosphere, the anti-black misandry, SYs being passed? Bro, what do you make of this, man?
They would have been chopped up. They would not be around right now. That's the problem with the guys here. They're receptible to these dudes. They allow them on panels. They allow them on shows. They should not have even a voice. But some of them have given them a voice.
Yeah, I mean, did you see the fact where this dude had like a glossary of all the kind of like terminology that we use in this space, not even knowing that our terminology changes with the day, by the day?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Right.
he doesn't understand that the reason that terminology is there because of the policing and censorship of YouTube.
Right.
So
Exactly.
the glossary out there, it's pretty much meaningless because then the next day people will just create a new word for each term that he came up with.
Right.
But it was creepy. I'm like, could you imagine if he had invested 2 years into dealing with this issue of black professors being expelled from campuses for different kind of frivolous charges? How we could have benefited from that?
Well, that's why the guys have to get on the board and put pressure on these people. That's all I can say because they always been watching us. I've been saying that for a long time. They've been watching us, taking notes and studying, and we need to start studying what they're doing and keep up on what they're up to. Observe their behavior. Don't let it pass by. We got to put our foot on their neck.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think it was actually the right thing for us to have this conversation because we've never really talked about black men in academia. None of us have really ever talked about that. But he actually was a good thing because he brought that conversation to the forefront. And now we're actually breaking down things that none of us had thought about. Like we got the data now. We know how many of them there are. We know how they're being railroaded on these campuses. And we know how they're not actually presenting the kind of scholarship that's benefiting black men at all. So this is good that we're having this conversation. So he was actually a blessing in disguise, man. But it's kind of sad to see a brother waste his energy on our spaces, not knowing that we're pretty sharp individuals over here, man.
Oh yeah.
And he has supported because if he was on Patreon, he supported under a guideline, a female name. Because what I've been telling guys is that you have females, you think super chatting to you, but it's a male. And then you think it's a male super chatting to you, it's a female. You just got to learn the wording. So he must have been a female avatar supporting these platforms and then go on these guys' Patreon to know all the details he knows.
Man, he had a big crush on Obsidian, man. Big crush, like,
oh boy.
Like he just gave like brothers like Bob, he just gave him like a little paragraph. He gave Xanatos like a paragraph, but he created like a whole section for Obsidian.
Yeah.
Like a whole section just about him.
Oh gosh.
Man, these dudes are creepy as fuck, man. Like I'm talking about creepy. I mean, just creepy dudes.
They want to get old man in mainstream. Remember we talked about this King said about that. They want to get old man in mainstream. They want to get him in mainstream. And that's one of the ways of doing it.
I mean, damn, he gave Baba like a couple paragraphs. Gave Xanatos clutch. The boy got his own glossary of terms for this space, bro. A whole glossary. Edited and everything, proofread and everything, man. And then he said, I've been in this space for 2 years, studying, stalking, creeping.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
Because he's actually bringing out the best in us. Like I haven't written an op-ed article in 10 years. But he forced me to start thinking about how to present arguments in written form as well.
Right.
I think he's a blessing, but he's a creepy blessing, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But man, this dude, he is really obsessed with the men in the space, man. Like it's weird. Even the toxic women that hate our guts over here aren't that bad.
Right.
Correct.
I mean, he got the women over there sitting around with their tea like, girl, I didn't even think to create a glossary. So he getting invited to all the barbecues when the quarantine is over. He go get his manicures paid for the next year from the toxic women sector, boy.
Oh yeah.
They over there hitting each other like, girl, did you see that? This black male academic, he done went hard. He got a whole glossary on the black manosphere, and he know all the major speakers. He know everything about. He had Angry Man on there. O'Shea. I mean, he got like bios. Like this dude is on some real live black identity extremist type shit. Like
Yeah.
he's the type of dude that has so little integrity and pride that I could see him going with this little information he got, going right to the FBI and saying that I'll do anything you guys want me to do. Here's all the information you know about these black men in this space. He would literally like go right to the FBI with that shit just for a job. Like, I mean, wow.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. Oh boy.
So I didn't see this coming. I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't see nothing like this coming. I knew that we had brothers that was very much emasculated or whatever, very much against black men, but I didn't think someone to the extent would do what he's doing. It's one thing to have your opinion, but running to white people to snitch on other black men, it didn't even cross my mind. So that tells you how naive and dumb I've been. I just never would have saw black men publicly doing something like that to other black men.
Right.
As much as we disagree with each other, as much as we stay in our own groups, I didn't see someone going to that extent, man.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't see it. But hey, I'm glad that he showed up because like he's low level. He's like the bench warmer. He's not even G League.
Right.
So we're gonna have like big time individuals that are more well funded coming at us hard. So he's so I'm glad.
Yeah, because the reason for that is because like you guys said earlier, they ain't gonna have no time to do shows. FS1 might close down soon. ESPN might close down soon. Certain political affiliates might close down soon. They might close down their stations, so they're gonna be monitoring us even more than ever before because we like 10 years ahead of what's going on, most of us and some of us for the most part. So they're not up to date of what's going on. They don't know how to, get a crowd. They don't know how to get people to watch their videos. They don't know how to get people to monetize, and it's a lot of work. So they're going to be watching us, taking notes from us, and try to use it to their own advantage.
Oh, yeah. He got like a whole dossier to give to the intelligence agency about us if Joe Biden get in. Because remember, Trump is actually trying to listen to us. We don't know it, but I come to find out that a lot of Trump's like auxiliaries listen to us, man. Mm-hmm. And they bring the information back to Trump so that he can market his campaign in 2020 towards black men. A lot of people don't know that, but it's actually true. So what this dude is doing, he's waiting for Joe Biden to get in there with all the feminists surrounding him, and he's going to be looking for a job saying that, look, you guys have to go take down these black men in his space. He's going to be right there in line if Joe Biden wins. He wants a job down there with those feminists.
Oh, yeah.
If Joe Biden wins, we better start thinking about going to other countries after 2020 because they will start locking us up.
Real shit, because he's the one that started that whole thing with the male feminism. So that's what I was telling people, like, he's the worst thing that can happen to black men in America, Joe Biden.
Right.
Yeah, he's worse than Bill Clinton.
Yeah, because he was the one dictating the sexual consent and assault policy for Obama, along again with Al Franken, who got sacrificed. So we've entered a very dangerous territory, but at the same time, again, opportunity, man, is always in chaos. So it's just a matter of the brothers just gotta, be sharp. You gotta be sharp. You gotta think ahead. You gotta look at the opposite side of the coin, and we're gonna be good. But when I found out that Trump has people that listen to our conversations because we're considered more conservative than the black male majority, that kind of let me know where this thing is going if he wins. versus where it's going if Joe Biden wins. Like Joe Biden, man, that dude, he almost got dementia, it looks like. So the feminists that he's hiring around him, like he's talking about a black vice president in Kamala Harris or Sturdy Stacey Abrams.
I told you she's not out the woodworks, even if she don't make it, King Simba. I told you. She's part of the family tree. Told you.
Yeah, and we know that she worships white men anyways. She's worships white men. So they already got these black feminists around them, white feminists around them, and then they got the few male feminists like this cat. And they ready. They coming at us, man. I'm talking about they're gonna take away all our rights if they could. So I'm actually predicting that Trump will win pretty easily.
If he gets better, because I think he has it. I think he has it, to be honest, King Simba. I think he has the virus.
Oh, word?
Mm-hmm.
Damn. So you think Trump got the coronavirus?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Well, we're gonna have to have that one on another one, but I want to let Dr. Phoenix get the mic for a couple minutes. I'm about to get up out of here in like 10-15 minutes. So Dr. Phoenix, thanks for coming through. I know you got in kind of late, but I want to give you a chance to because he's actually in medical school right now. So he's right there on campus and he's dealing with these kind of dudes on an everyday basis. And I would like the audience to hear what he has to say, because he's actually in medical school right now. So he knows what's going on in academia right now. You got the mic, Dr. Phoenix.
Yeah. What's up, man? Thank you for having me on, man. Good evening to the panel.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on, man?
Oh man, not much. I'm just curious. Does anyone know who this guy's who his PhD advisors are? Because typically, if you do a PhD, you have to have a panel of advisors. So usually three other PhDs. So I'm just curious. Does anyone know who they are? They have to know they have to know what he's writing or what he's researching.
It's probably white women, because academia has been really taken over by white.
Yeah, humanities is stuff full of white women. That's where you typically find most of your white females at. The humanities, social sciences, such like that. My perspective is that for the most part, I'm not surprised about what he has done. His is pretty typical, and I was talking about this maybe about a couple weeks ago or so over at the Black Brain Trust about medical school, because I did hear that I did hear part of that playback you did over at Obsidians the other day, King Sigma. You talked about Asian males being represented in academia at a rate of 3 times that compared to their relative population in the greater society. And if you look at medical school, for example, Asians are about 5% of the population, but they're anywhere between 35 to 50% of the population in medical school. And if you look at this guy's bodies of work, in relation to someone like him, when they typically let black males into these programs, these PhD programs, these professional programs, whatever the case may be, it's typically 1 or 2 kinds of black males. You're not going to find really sort of your man's man kind of black male, your very heterosexual black male. It's typically going to be the effeminate, or he's just going to be outright part of the alphabet group. And certainly that's what's happening with black males in the medical profession. You've seen a lot of alphabet type black males that are going into medical school. In fact, I will argue that they have a better chance of being accepted into these programs, not just medical school, but these graduate and doctoral programs in general. They have a higher chance of being accepted as opposed to heterosexual black males. And I guess for me, based on what I've known about what he's done so far, I mean, his work doesn't really meet the standard of an academic. It's not very well researched. I haven't really read his stuff, but based on what you all are saying, it doesn't seem to be very well written. And something that really disturbed me, what you said earlier, which is that he's running to white women to tell on black men.
Yeah, we wouldn't have known about it. He said it himself. He said he let us know, hey, I'm going to these different white women to snitch on you. He said it.
Mm.
And that was one of the most disturbing things being in this space for 2 years, I've seen a lot of things that I've never seen in my real life, but that was the first time I've ever seen something like that. I'm like, whoa.
I've seen some very suspect stuff in academia with black males, but I ain't never seen anything like that. Running and telling to Miss Ann about black men. I mean, I ain't never seen nothing like that. Now, I'll expect something like that out of maybe a black female in an academic setting, but a black male, no.
Yeah, that was a bad look for him. But
I think it says a lot about really, what's going on with him psychologically. My background is not technically in psychology or psychiatry or anything like that. But again, being in healthcare, you do get this broad base of knowledge, and a lot of it is involved in the psychosocial sciences. And so part of what seems to scream to me is that the guy does seem to have some mommy issues.
Well, you might want to reach out to Obsidian, because Obsidian has like a Facebook post that this dude posted of like that really goes in deep about his relationship with his mother and his father. So reach out to Obsidian to send you that screen print that he has from the dude's Facebook post. And I think that'll help you more in trying to understand it. But I don't, the motive thing is what it is. But I just
because what it sounds like is that he's imprinting sort of the mother role onto white women, because most likely that's who's mentoring him through this process of getting a PhD.
But that's some real like buck broken type stuff.
I mean, again, that's what happens. That's what happens in academia to most of these guys, is that they're really buck broken. I mean, to be real frank, I mean, this is not 20 or 30 years ago where you had your warrior scholars coming up out of academia. You had your Dr. Joseph Ben Yakinans, and you had your your John Henry Clarks and so on and so forth. You had your Amos Wilsons and your Ivan Van Sertima's. Those are the days. Even if Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who she herself was a medical doctor. And you don't see that much of just about, you don't really see that anymore, because most of these guys are really plantation and corporate. They're trying to compete with the celebrities these days.
True.
Because one of the things that you referenced was the brother out of Harvard, which I knew about his story over a year ago. The brother that was the economist, Roland, I think, was it Fryer? That was his last name. I don't know if brothers really familiar with the intimate details. He got clipped. He was thrown out. He was taken away because he was director of an economics lab. He was removed from that position. His lab was shut down, which means that he had students under him who were PhD and graduate students that he was mentoring. They had to go over to other professors. But the other part of that, what a lot of brothers don't understand. Do anyone knows how much he was being paid at Harvard to that position?
Well, I gotta imagine
he was being paid close to $700,000 a year.
Yeah, he was getting paper because he was like the youngest tenured.
He was like 37, 38 years old.
Yeah, he was getting money because he had a lot of people, bringing him in, getting that little extra money outside of the institution. So they did him dirty. And what I'm saying, okay, now you're in academia, Dr. Phoenix. Now, am I being unreasonable when I say that a dissertation about the disparity between Asian American men as professors in America in comparison to their numbers in the population versus Black American male professors and their percentage of the population? You telling me that you as an academic being there wouldn't have loved to see like a broad study of that?
I would like to see it, but will it happen? No.
So then what is the purpose of the average Black male academic anymore?
What's happening now in academia, and you kind of highlighted before, what typically happens in academia, if you want to get tenure, for example, typically, maybe, Dr. Johnson, Dr. T. Hassan Johnson could probably even speak to this better than I can. But typically for tenure, brother, you got to be on a 5 to maybe 7 year track to get tenure. And in that period, brother, you have to be putting out a certain number of peer-reviewed published articles yearly. And you have to be bringing in grant money into whatever department you're in. That is the burden, on top of the fact that you have to be mentoring students. That is the burden you carry as an academic. However, for Black academics, what happens with them, they love to throw Black academics on all these little subcommittees. So they might throw you on some silly diversity and inclusion committee or something like that. They'll throw you on a whole bunch of committees where you know it kind of divides your time up, so you never get time the time you really need that you can devote to doing, you know, putting out articles and getting it published and all that. So that's part of the reason why a lot of your black academics don't get tenureship, outside the fact that many of them do just get outright denied.
Well, things have changed a lot in 10 years because I had actually three. I had a black woman that was my professor. And I had two black men that were my professors that were just like dope in their fields. Like one was in history, the other one was in political science, the other one was in economics. And I mean, they was raw, even the female, but she was just raw with her stuff. And they held powerful position at a Big Ten university. They were like in opposition to a lot of the white shit. Like they were calling that stuff out. Like my political science professor, he is a 10-year professor. He's in his probably like 72 now. At retirement, but he was known for fighting so hard for black men on campus, getting money for black people. He rode hard, and now it seems like in 10 years, the whole culture in college has changed. It used to be that the academics were leading the charge in militancy.
Well, you know, it's been a reversal. You know, you want me to be real frank with you, man?
Go ahead, man. You good?
I was a McNair scholar when I was in undergrad. My primary mentor was a black woman, PhD, but she did, you know, she had a number of appointments at like the NIH and all this other stuff. But anyhow, she was my principal mentor. And so in the McNair program, if anyone's not familiar with it, it pretty much you go through the process of learning how to do research from the ground up. And as an undergrad, learning how to do research as an undergrad is very difficult to get into. Typically, you have to be a top tier student to get into those, typically to get into research. But I say that to say because the problem is that what I've seen is that your black academics, now I knew a few like her, like the one that mentored me, but most of your black academics, brother, they, you know, they really not pushing hard at all. If you wanted to be real frank, I found in my experience that a lot of white females push harder for brothers than the actual black academics do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not too surprised, but I got to get moving, brothers. I want to give everyone their last statement on the topic, and then anything that you might want to say before I get up.
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Rollo.
My thoughts is everybody, look, you got to put your faith in the Lord or whatever you believe in, because at the end of the day, we all being tested. This is the testing season. And those who pass the test will be all right. We'll get through the storm. We've been through many storms before, so this should not be a surprise. But I will say to the ladies, your time is up, because like I said last year, if you don't get yourself right with a man that knows what's going on, you will be dragging these streets. Because these military, because I'm in New York, they already got it under martial law about 90 miles from me. And they're not playing. They're not playing, man. When they come, they don't talk. So it's going to be crazy out here in the spring and summer, man. And go see the movie The Hunt. And the movie that's coming out today. Not the Fossil, the one with the big dude. You got to see those movies. Stop. Or get it on whatever, Fiber, whatever y'all watch. Watch those movies. They're telling you the truth.
You said it's called The Hunt?
The Hunt. Yep, the 1%. Going to getting people, railroad them in certain locations and hunt them from sports. Like the movie that came out almost a decade ago. What's the name of the movie? Hunger Games. Similar to Hunger Games.
Right.
Like that Ice-T was in a movie like that too back in the day. I saw it on YouTube. It was either YouTube or somewhere. I found this movie where it had like Ice-T.
Oh, you talking about Trespass or something?
Yeah, it was
like
called
that?
like Trespass or something like that.
Yeah, that was back in the early 90s, man.
Yeah, I saw that video and I'm like, what is this shit? And it was like Ice-T was being hunted, man. I mean, kind of old school movies on a lot of those old school movies are free on the internet now, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm about to go see the movie right now because I'm going to be with my people so I can study what's going on. And then I'm going to give my trilogy a little bit of it. And then about 2 weeks, I give the whole deal. But I'm about to go see it now. So you fellas have a good one.
All right, Rollo, man, y'all go support
Take
that
it easy, Rollo.
on the Rollo
All
show.
right.
All right, peace, man.
Peace.
He's a pretty regular content creator, so y'all make sure y'all support Rollo. He's one of the passport bros. You go ahead and go next, Dr. Phoenix.
Yeah, I I'll just leave it with this because I think Rael brought up a interesting point in the chat. These institutions, your state institutions, because most of your universities are state, are public. They're not going to go down. I mean, this will be this current situation with the coronavirus will be a big boom for many industries and for certainly for individuals. But don't think for 1 minute that these public institutions are about to go down, because they are very much interconnected with the industry. You wonder how you get this whole Black Girls Code, Black Girl Magic, and all this stuff is because they're literally, because PhDs are not going into academia anymore, not like that, because essentially these folks get tenure and they stay there until they practically die, and what's happening is that these folks are going into industry. That's why you see this massive feminization of various industries, especially in the STEM healthcare industry and the corporate industry. Is because these folks are going from academia into industry. So there's a pipeline for that. And these corporations do put in hundreds of millions of dollars. Like the University of Wisconsin system, for example, my alma mater, they actually got over $100 million from Foxconn about a year or so ago for the engineering department. And so, just keep in mind that, this situation will create a nice bit of profit for a number of individuals and stuff like that. But don't count these big public institutions out by any means.
Good point. Was that your final statement, Dr.?
Yeah, brother. And thank you again. Good seeing you, Babatunde, and I really appreciate you having me on, brother.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Cool, bro.
We're gonna do a one-on-one soon, bro. We're gonna do a one-on-one.
Oh yeah. Not a problem, man. I'm just kind of really busy these days. So
did your campus classes, are you guys on the online?
Yeah, for the most part, if medical schools typically offer online, your courses are typically online for the most part. Like your basic science courses, they're typically online. So it's just really coming in for more or less lab and maybe group activities and stuff like that. But your basic courses themselves, your lectures, all recorded and online. But yeah, they're closing. Yeah, they're closing down schools because spring break is coming up next week. I think it's next week. So
well, man, I wish you the best in your semester. We'll definitely chop it up in the future. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you so much, brother.
Yes, sir. Baba, what's your last statement?
Just to say, as I stated before, SYSBM is going to continue to grow. Mr. Fountain is only just doing us a service, by basically coming on the scene. Again, this business about running to white feminists is some creepy business, man. As like you, I'm just baffed at that. But all we just need to do is we just need to step up and stand forward, man. Because at the end of the day, see, this is why I'm glad I followed your recommendation to put the tenants out, because I've been running into a lot of dudes who basically they've been trying to give SYSBM a bad name by referring to certain people. I say, look what this guy's doing over here, and then I have to point to them and say, oh, this guy's not SYSBM, man. And also, did you read the tenants? So I'm finding I'm running into a lot of guys who want to quote people who are not SYSBM to try and tarnish SYSBM. But again, it's the same thing when Christ said, look, you're going to have false prophets come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they're ravening wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. And again, he's given out the commandments. So anyone who didn't follow the commandments, oh, well, this guy's not following Christ. The same thing with SYSBM and the tenets. Anyone who's not following the tenets, well, they're not true SYSBM. So it's simple and straightforward. So that's something, that's something I've been really scratching my head at. These guys coming out of the woodwork saying, look, this guy's doing, it's all about chicks and all this. I say, wait a minute, did you read the tenets? if you're reading the tenets and you see someone doing something that's contrary to the tenets, and that's not SYSPM, then is it? I mean, so yeah, I'm having to deal with that, quite a bit of that at the moment. But apart from that, man, we just need to stay strong, man. We just need to keep pushing forward because, as you stated before, King Sigma, these mainstream media outlets, when Trump gets re-elected this year, man, they're gonna really come sniffing around this arena, man. I mean, because as you predicted, I think you said you 25% for Trump, black men for Trump. I mean, prediction. I reckon the same, between 25 and 30% of a black American men. You know what I mean? So
well, it's unfortunate people don't know more about the UK. You know, it's surprising to me how many people in America didn't pay attention to what happened in the UK with you guys' election, with the overthrowing of the social justice warriors. Or no one paid attention over here, man.
Yeah. So
But that
yeah,
was big. That was like, I think they said it was like one of the biggest shocks in UK recent history, like the last 40 years. Like they hadn't seen anything like in 40 years or something, man. What happened over there?
Oh yeah, that was big. That was massive, man. That was absolutely massive, man. That the country spoke. I mean, they've had enough of this crap. You know what I mean? They want out the EU and all this business. You know what I mean? The Conservatives they just want it. They want it hands down. You know what I mean? They just want something different. You get me? So you know, I mean, we'll see what happens, man. But yeah, the people have spoken, man. I mean, people are sick and tired of this SJW rubbish, man. It's just hampering everything.
Well, they're in a bubble. They're in a bubble, and they think that the rest of society holds their views. So even after Brexit, even after the election of Donald Trump, even after Get Woke, Go Broke, they just don't believe it until they look up one day and they're finally on the outside, and the traditional and the practical, rational people are in control again. So they'll know soon enough by the end of this year. But I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to put my first blog up on slayingevil.com. I really appreciate you really pushing a black male first conversation. And I hope the brothers will definitely go over there and support your platform. And you said that the op-ed that I sent over will be posted on Monday and Friday. So you brothers go give my first blog a read. I think you'll like it. I give a little bit of a historical context to the policing of black men and how this is something that we've been fighting for a long time. And now we have the best tool needed to fight it. So we should thank the white feminist drone, because he's actually bringing out the best in us right now. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. You have a good evening, Baba, and all the viewers and the brothers in the chat room, and I appreciate y'all coming through. And with that said, until next time, I'm out.
Peace out, bro.
Yes, sir.